for each study, we had a very homogeneous kind of sample. We set particular parameters so that we could draw insights on this group of people. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I think our time is limited, so we are open to the one last question. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah. As anybody wants to ask questions? Okay, if there is not, then we're going to move to the next speech. Thank you,
very
Jason.
much.
Okay, so our second panelist is Tom McDonald. Tom McDonald is an anthropologist in the Department of Sociology, University of Hong Kong. His research examines the cultural consequences of novel formations of digital money, media, and technology in Asia. He has published articles in numerous academic journals, including American Anthropologist, Economy and Society, and the Journal of Cultural Economy. And the speech topic for today is liquid communities, NFT markets, mobile methods, and communication. Welcome.
Do you want me to speak into this? Yeah. Okay, great. Hello? Okay. Great. So first, I'd like to start by thanking Professor Huang, of course, and the absolutely incredible organization team who have just done a brilliant job over the past few days. My talk today is called Liquid Communities, NFT Markets, Mobile Methods, and Communication. And in today's talk, I'll examine how Hong Kong collectors of non-fungible tokens, NFTs, understand the communities that surround the NFTs that they hold in their blockchain-powered digital wallets. I'll try to reveal how, in the face of the intractable relationship between NFTs and cryptocurrencies, and the decline of both in tandem around the crypto winter of 2022, an interesting counter-narrative emerged that emphasized the desirability of blockchain-based communities that were defined by their amorphousness rather than being bound together by shared common ideals. To people in these communities, fluidity was a feature, not flowing from their participation in the community, rather than being a bug that was attributed to a lack of money in the market. Understanding the social groupings emerging from NFTs as forms of liquid community can, I argue, provide a counterpoint to prevailing accounts that attribute the existence and the failure of blockchain communities principally owing to conflicts between infrastructural mutualism and digital metalism and the ideals that surround these. Really importantly, I claim that platforms play a fundamental role in ensuring individuals' awareness of and participation in the liquid communities that surround their NFTs. In this talk, these platforms chiefly center on OpenSea, the dominant NFT trading marketplace, and its competitors. However, they also include the associated blockchain platforms like Ethereum and Solana blockchain that form the underlying infrastructure that helps settle transactions and determine the ownership and authenticity of NFTs that are traded on the marketplace. These are further complemented by social media platforms like Discord, to actually facilitate the linguistic, visual, and emotional exchanges that surround and actually enable these transactions. So despite these differing natures and remits, these all act as co-constitutive transaction platforms in the sense that they support the transactional economies by incorporating the key motivating tendencies that play out across the interlocking domains of commerce, technology, sociability, and logistics. This much more encompassing definition of platforms that I'm using here also takes reference from Gillespie's discussion, where he says that moderation is a key function of all platforms. Gillespie draws attention to how social media platforms have tended to portray themselves as being mere conduits of information, being somehow neutral, just concealing or trying to hide their engagement in moderating content. Platform moderation processes by social media have, Gillespie argues, come to shape public discourse. While Gillespie's talking about social media, I think you can expand this out when we think about these like interlocking platforms involved in NFTs. So these multiple interlinked platforms, marketplaces, blockchains, and social media that support these NFT exchanges provide an ideal case to consider the moderating role of platform, not only in terms of content, but in all manner of transactions, financial, informational, conversational, and so on. And in this regard, I'm also influenced by Steinberg's idea of the platform economy, in which he foregrounds how terminology often constitutes its own metaphorical economy that permeates and transforms various fields. So Steinberg emphasizes that it's patterns of management, rhetorical and operational, that actually create the conditions for platform management. Here I'm also drawn to Vahorne's argument that in the context of a collaborative economy, platforms and communities are, despite often being framed as contradictory to each other, they're in fact mutually constituted by one another. For my participants, the term community floated in, on, and around multiple platforms mentioned above as they traded, analyzed, and discussed NFT projects that they belong to. Indeed, the pursuit of community often became a term through which platform activity or even platforms themselves ended up being managed. And accompanied by this was an understanding that such communities are never fixed in form and that their shifting, fluid, or liquid qualities are what affords their value creation. So just a quick overview of the rest of the talk. I'm going to talk a little bit about methods very quickly. And then I'm going to give kind of 3 examples of how we see liquid community amongst my participants. So the first one, I'll talk about the effort to find liquid communities and avoid rug pulls. Then I'll talk about having to grind to work to try and find a place on a whitelist. And finally, I'll look at kind of roadmaps as a device to show imaginations of future communities. Okay, so let's talk about methodologies. What I'm talking about today is based on online interviews, Zoom-based interviews that we did with 25 Hong Kong-based NFT collectors. And these collectors came from all walks of life. We had people who were school children, still in school, all the way up to people who were working as investment bankers. There were local Hong Kong people, people who had migrated from mainland China to live in Hong Kong, and even a few foreigners thrown into the mix. And very importantly, these people themselves were not a community, right? They didn't know each other. They were not part of a community. But the word community just came up again and again and again every time we were talking to them. And that made us think this must be a very important theme, despite the difference of all these people. For when, as I said, these interviews were conducted around 2021 and 2022 during the period of the pandemic, and during that time travel was difficult within Hong Kong, and also even people didn't want to meet you for a face-to-face interview. So we capitalized on that, and knowing these people are big tech nerds, they actually preferred to be interviewed over Zoom. And that gave us a great tool because we could use the Zoom screen share function for their interviews. So actually the interviews were very simple. We asked people to give us a tour of the NFTs in their digital wallet, in their NFT collection. And that was a really fun way of doing interviews. And because we weren't asking them kind of boring questions about NFTs, instead we were asking them to tell us about things they owned, they had a lot to say. In fact, we couldn't get them to stop talking sometimes. So it was really fun. And Yeah, so that's basically the methodology that we used. Okay, so I'll move to the kind of talking about the findings, if you like. So this section is called Finding Liquid Communities and Avoiding Rug Pulls. And I'll start with a quote from a participant. Because everyone, when you mention crypto and when you mention NFTs, especially with the bear market right now, everyone's like, oh, you know, these are Ponzi schemes. And I don't understand why a single JPEG could be worth so much. But I would say there's definitely a very huge crowd that sees the value in it, like beyond financial value. Because a lot of Web3 and also NFTs is about community building. They're always talking about community, you know? So I tried to understand NFT projects as in why they had value. It's because they're not only trying to sell you their JPEG. The JPEG is an entrance to something else. It's an entrance to an exclusive club. So this notion of community was raised consistently during my discussions with Hong Kong-based NFT collectors. The above quote from a female hobbyist collector and a part-time photographer in her mid-30s typifies the importance attached to this idea. It was community rather than profits that were often being portrayed as the very reason of existence for being a collector. Tellingly, not only was it possible for this group of fellow enthusiasts to come together and be sustained outside of formal organizations without fixed physical premises, but built into this understanding of community was a strong characteristic of amorphousness. It was accepted, even desired, that such boundaries of a group would be in flux and ideally expanding. Indeed, it was this very quality that participants believed had the potential to bring about financial gain. As William, a collector originally from mainland China who'd graduated from a local university in Hong Kong, described, the thing is, once people really enjoy the community, many people want to buy and other people want to sell. So it creates the liquidity. So the liquidity, it actually can make huge profits. And here, you know, William describes liquidity not as a technical economic measure. It's not comparisons of daily trading volume, but rather it's something that comes out of community. In other words, the money is understood to be following the people rather than the people following the money. Now, it's really important to note here that not all participants directly used the term liquidity to describe the NFT communities that they were engaged in. Terms such as active, hot, busy, and crowded also frequently emerged in participants' narratives, normally when they reminisced about the intense communities that coalesced around the peak, during the market peak. Conversely, the words quiet, empty, or dead communities that they now observed around their NFTs were felt to typify the bearish market that they found themselves within. As one participant, Edmund, described, there's no buying or selling going on currently now. It's just quiet right now. So these vivid descriptions can be seen to play into and support this liquidity metaphor, while also highlighting its value as an analytical concept. Okay, example 2. Grinding for a place on the whitelist. So what features constituted a good community for an NFT project? Well, many of my participants said that this was ascertained, it could be understood not by looking at the NFT trading platforms such as OpenSea, but instead through observing activity surrounding the project on various social media platforms like X, Instagram, and Discord. So I often started interviews by asking participants to simply talk me through the NFTs they owned, for example, by showing me their OpenSea profile. However, participants' responses to this approach also revealed the inaccuracies of my own preconception that OpenSea was the site where their NFTs were located, as well as being the field site of my study. While OpenSea was the dominant NFT trading platform, participants were in fact storing these NFTs in one or more digital crypto wallets that belonged to them. Participants typically connected those wallets to OpenSea for the purpose of buying or selling their NFTs, but also simply as a kind of tool to view them alongside data on their ownership and transaction history from within their kind of web browser. So OpenSea then could arguably be described as the central platform through which participants actually experience their NFTs, but not where their NFTs were. Whereas digital wallets tended to represent a more transparent, almost invisible piece of infrastructure that supported NFT use behind the scenes. So the above qualities of OpenSea meant that it frequently acted as both an entry point to our research encounter, but also an anchor point that those participants and I kept returning to, quite literally owing to this kind of screen share method throughout the course of our discussions. Furthermore, it soon became apparent that the role of OpenSea could only be properly understood in the context of multiple other platforms that supported NFT trading. This revelation owed a lot to the way that participants actually ended up leading our conversations, most often through this screen-shared web browser, where they took off on very tangential discussions when covering stories of NFTs found in their collections. So these diversions often involved showing me NFT trading platforms such as Rarible, Foundation, Axie Marketplace. But more frequently, however, participants wished to show me the social media profiles of NFT projects or creators on platforms such as Twitter, Instagram, and Discord, as well as dedicated NFT project web pages. Websites offering analytical tools for understanding NFT market trends were also visited. So these tangents embarked upon by participants proved really instrumental in making me realize how while the actual trade of NFTs occurred on OpenSea, the construction of community and value largely occurred outside of this platform. And actually yesterday we went to visit a pop-up city, and I was really reminded of that when the founder was doing his PowerPoint presentation but kept on going off onto X and onto other platforms to show us all of that activity that was happening. So it really helped me recall these interviews. So when searching for viable NFT projects, participants appeared to be looking for the presence of a kind of high-level energy, reminiscent of what Hertz described as the stock fever associated with the booming Shanghai stock market in the early 2000s. So I was curious as how this sense of kind of collective effervescence that surrounded NFT projects on social media was constructed. And one participant described this as a fundamentally participatory rather than a passive process in which they played an active role in creating the community that they were members of. So this participant said, I just spent, I think it was the whole of the Chinese New Year holiday. I remember the whole week. I was just on the Discord server. It's like a full-time job. I just, say hi to everyone in the morning when I wake up. Because there's a quantitative way to figure out your engagement as well, by the number of messages that you send on Discord. So that's actually what we call grinding. I'm counting the messages that I send and stuff like that. And I also like that the mods, the moderators, make clear that the numbers don't really matter the most, but it's the quality of the conversation. And then it's a very fair project, because when you reach the level the mods recognize you, they whitelist. So I actually got whitelisted from grinding. So this participant, Jenny, her narrative of her contribution to an NFT community through these intensive periods of grinding really further supports this notion of liquid community in numerous ways. The interwoven quantitative and qualitative aspects of liquidity discourses highlighted by Paul Langley are clearly on display here. On the one hand, the Discord platform provides Jenny with the channel for actively promoting the project amongst those belonging to this broader community of interest, while simultaneously rendering her historically. The narrator who sized posts over quantity, seemingly suggesting a desire to cultivate an authentic, meaningful community that somehow refrains from thoughtless reposting of content. Important, also incentivized by the mechanism of offering on a list, which priority to mint an NFT when it was released by the project. So this requirement to post both prodigiously but also profoundly led this participant to directly compare grinding to a form of labor. So basically, all this voluntary work is to get the admins to notice me. This is why we call it grinding, because it's kind of like you're working. And you know, the mods are your boss. Your salary is the whitelist, and you have to pay for it. So Jenny's understanding of her conversational activity as quite literally a form of labor really calls to mind Adrian Athik's description of how, under the digital economy, communication is rapidly attaining the status of a commodity, rendering it amenable to what he terms the great integration of simultaneously transactions across multiple social domains. In the example of grinding for a place on the whitelist, we see a further aspect of the interwoven nature of community and platform. The fact that most interactions around NFTs occur on social media rather than on the OpenSea trading platform supports Steinberg's threefold typology of platforms as A, a layered structure, in our case, social media supporting OpenSea, OpenSea supporting digital wallets, a support for B, a support for conference in our contents, in our case, the posts promoting NFT projects made by community participants as part of the grinding process, being that very contents, and C, a structure of mediation or enabler of financial transactions. And in our case, that's the interactions within liquid communities that actually enable these NFT trades. The channeling of the activities of community members through this logic of grinding creates the basis for patterns of management, both rhetorical and operational, that create the conditions for management. And by this, I refer to how OpenSea, the underlying blockchain platforms that power OpenSea, and a constellation of media platforms that promote all of this, becomes structured as a platform ecosystem which recognizes, reproduces, and rewards grinding practices. Furthermore, NFT communities appear to act as platforms for grinding in and of themselves, for it is the community that circulates and normalizes grinding as an idea that acts as a kind of highly neoliberal form of self-governance. The efficacy and power of these neoliberal self-governing ideals is really powerfully illustrated by Jenny's willingness to forgo her Chinese New Year holiday to engage in this voluntary work of grinding in order to receive the salary of a possible whitelist place. Okay, example number 3. So this is called technical... Oh, there you go. This is called technical analysis. Obviously, the clicker isn't grinding today. The clicker is taking it easy. Example number 3 is called technical analysis and the locating of liquidity. So during these screen share interviews, almost every participant pulled up on at least one occasion a graphical chart visualizing some aspect of the NFT artwork or the project that we were discussing at the time. So such charts typically displayed either a change in the price of a specific artwork over time or some kind of aggregate data, like changes in the listings or the sales or the bids or the transfers for all the NFTs linked to a specific NFT project. Almost always, the user was able to adjust the time scale of this chart, of the horizontal axis, from anything from the shortest period that was normally 24 hours, all the way up to a scale that would be like that was all the data that existed, probably going back several years. Now, these charts, when I saw them, of course, they kind of, as someone who doesn't understand blockchain, they kind of instantly remind you of the stock market, right? They instantly remind you of these kind of performance of stocks and shares in the market, like the S&P 500 or the CSI 300 or whatever, that we're really familiar of seeing. Now, participants typically access these charts within OpenSea themselves, as one participant named Oscar actually attributed the popularity of OpenSea amongst all these different NFT marketplaces to the fact that the platform had really mastered the graphical representation of data. He said, "There's a reason why many people use OpenSea. They were there early and they have good charts." So while OpenSea's capacity for visualizing NFT market data helped it to gain the dominant position amongst NFT marketplaces, there were several third-party analytical tools that participants also made use of to gather additional insights into the performance of NFT projects. Oscar showed me a free tool named NFT Go, which could be used to display data regarding any NFT artwork or project. And as he browsed through this site, this tool, he marveled at what he said was the professional scale of the service and the pretty good numbers that this platform provided. At one point, Oscar stopped to show me a single chart that combined at least 5 different categories of different data pertaining to one whole NFT project, all on the same chart. So this chart had the floor and the average prices across time as plot lines, then prices of single purchases within the project laid on top of that as little grey scatter dots. And then on top of that, again, the highest and the lowest value purchases were also scatter dots, but in a different color. And then there were also scatter dots that were actually little pictures of whales, the animal, like the fish, that were supposed to represent whales in the market who had purchased a lot of NFTs. So he stared at this chart showing me and was like, wow, this is so amazing, seemingly at awe in the kind of data vision panopticon that this kind of graph provided. And I just didn't understand any of it, of course. So while Oscar praised the fidelity of these charts on offer by platforms such as NFT Go and OpenSea, he also remarked that liquidity, you couldn't actually easily understand or discern liquidity from reading these charts. So during our discussions, he pulled up on his screen an OpenSea chart showing the price change of an NFT project called Azuki, which he'd purchased an NFT from a few months before. He moved his cursor along the chart, starting at the 20th of January 2022, when the average price was 3.9 Ethereum. About a third of the way along the chart, on the 1st of February 2022, so a couple of weeks later, the line peaked at like 19 Ethereum. And then this marked the beginning of a kind of gradual decline over the following 5 weeks until the price had fallen to just 10 Ethereum and only 11 sales occurred on that day. With his cursor hovering at the far right of the chart, of this declining chart, he suggested that the situation was now very bearish. He went on to say that while some people think this low price is a good thing, because you can buy cheaper, that's not really a thing in NFTs. He explained that this was fundamentally a problem of liquidity. The biggest risk in NFT is the liquidity. So even if the price is dropping, if the liquidity is still ongoing, that's the kind of the support side behind it. So that means it's just like the ideas are somehow conflicting between the buyers and the sellers. So in this explanation, a low price is not necessarily a bad thing, as long as this kind of relationship between the price and the volume keeps maintained, remains sufficient. But the worst case scenario, Oscar lamented, was having an NFT in your wallet from a project that was experiencing low liquidity. He said it's very, very scary, especially in a bearish market. So when the price of an NFT in a collection drops, he observed, this in fact would make people less likely to join a collection. So this was perhaps because the price decreases tended to expose the speculative emotions surrounding NFTs and the relative absence of a physical underlying asset that tended to stop the possibility of bargain hunters who might otherwise be inclined to buy the dip. So basically, the worst case scenario is low price and low liquidity, right? So Oscar's account describes liquidity again as something that appears to be more than just a price volume measure. In his reckoning, liquidity is not a direct economic measure contained within those charts generated by those trading platforms, but rather for Oscar, it appears to be that trying to read these charts for relevant information about movements in process, sales, volumes, highs and lows, and the presence of whales in the market. These different pieces of information must be assimilated and combined with other bits of knowledge to try to divine the emotions that are at play that might in fact be beneficial for understanding liquidity in certain situations. However, his overarching concern is to avoid that very worst scenario where prices are falling and all the people in the market share some kind of uniform pessimistic view of the state of the market. So it really is all about mood, right? So even if an individual believes they possess the ability to somehow discern this presence of liquidity through technical analysis, there'll always be cases that seem to defy these established expectations. So Oscar gave Bored Ape Yacht Club as an example of a project that had experienced falling prices, but somehow had managed to maintain liquidity and even turn things around. His account indicated that these magical capacities for reversing the fortunes of a project couldn't be divined from peering at charts alone. So for this project, he said, you better have unique art. But that's not the first line. The first line is you have to have a good team. This understanding of the success of Bored Ape Yacht Club team emerges from the ability of those team members to endure, regardless of the quality of the art or the changes in the market, further supports this notion of liquid community. The project team is cast as active participants that are themselves invested in the market for the long haul, rather than engaging in rug pull activities for short-term goals. Okay, so the final example is on roadmaps, imaginaries of future communities. A promising community would also have signs of a potential for future growth. Several participants showed me the websites belonging to the NFT projects they owned. They often highlighted the roadmap that was contained on these sites. These roadmaps were typically represented by a linear timeline, which demonstrated a clearly envisaged and described future trajectory for the project and the community associated with it. During an interview with Tina, who was originally from mainland and was studying in Hong Kong, she used screen share to show me the roadmap contained on the website for the NFT project called Small Boys, and you can see it right here now. So as she scrolled through this roadmap on her web browser, she paused and explained that this document had been a very important factor in influencing her decision to purchase an NFT from this project. She claimed that it was possible to discern the longevity of a project from a roadmap, and that such blueprints of a project's development were vital for avoiding rug pulls. So she said, so the number one thing I'm always looking at is this project going to stay here for a long time? That's going to be a very important thing for me, because I see a lot of projects these days, they just push it up and up and up until the day of launch, and then when it's minted, it's like, that's it, we're over. There's no further value in the NFTs and the artworks anymore. Whereas with this one, you can see there's a very systematic 9-phases strategy into the future, and there's promised to be a roadmap version 2. So it gives me confidence that this project will stay here for a long time. So this is really interesting. Rather than the roadmap being a business plan, it instead acted as a narrative device through which the imagined future of a community could be materialized in the present. It acted as a promise to and of the community that its existence would strengthen and deepen with the passing of time. Future NFT drops, collaborations, online and in-person events were interwoven as discrete points along this timeline, punctuating this imagined future as it was to unfold. one participant, Will, drew a connection between the storytelling function of a roadmap and the culture of the world of finance when he scrolled through one contained on the website for an NFT project named Bunny Warriors. He said, so the organizer, they launch a roadmap. It totally follows the idea of an IPO, initial public offering. They will tell the story of the NFT. Maybe they're concerned about the environment, or maybe it's the rights of animals. Maybe they have some very niche idea, and they'll have this roadmap explaining at what time I'll do fundraising, exhibition, branding. So if the organizer can tell the investor, I've got some kind of idea, the investor will believe in the project. However, not all participants were equally positive about the capacity of these roadmaps to act as an indicator of the future direction of a process. As one collector, Isaac, mentioned, because minting costs you money, it doesn't guarantee you'll make a profit from what you minted. You mint an NFT, it could be nothing. It could quickly be nothing. And 60 or 70% of these projects, they say we're a great project, we'll do whatever to build up our community. Our roadmap shows 1, 2, 3, 4, but it turns out to be nothing. And you could lose a lot of money from this. So I don't pay attention to this. I only focus on 1 or 2 projects. So this capacity for an NFT and the project associated with it to quickly become nothing is evidenced absolutely perfectly by returning to the example of Tina and her discussion of the roadmap of small boys that we presented at the start of this section. During our encounter, Tina had praised this systematic 9 phases strategy of the roadmap and its promise for a roadmap version 2, all as signs that it was going to be here for a long time. Then it's not without a sense of very unfortunate irony then that a few months after our speaking together, I noticed that the small boys roadmap had been quietly scrubbed from the project website. Attempts to access the page returned a 404 page not found error. In another instance, NFT collector, in fact, I'm going to skip that example. So one way to potentially mitigate the problem of NFT projects being rugged by founders who abruptly disappeared without delivering on the promises of to the community contained by their roadmap was to try to identify individuals behind NFT projects. Understanding who was behind an NFT project and its associated community also emerged as a central concern when participants were trying to assess whether they could believe a roadmap. Participants often demonstrated how project websites might have a team page or a section that listed the persons behind a project. A red flag might be if all the team members use pseudonyms. Some participants mentioned that if 1 or 2 members of the team were willing to dox themselves or reveal their true identity through using either their actual photo instead of using an avatar or their real name instead of a pseudonym, then this could be interpreted as an indicator that their project was likely to be more trustworthy. This was really striking, as despite participants' enthusiasm for the decentralized ethos of blockchain technologies powering their NFT figures, they appeared to see the presence of key figures, or maybe we could call them leaders, who were willing to forego this cryptographic anonymity afforded by such technologies as a sign of a community that might be worth engaging in, and a roadmap that was more likely to be delivered. So there's a real contradiction there between this idea of everything decentralized, but people seem to yearn for these kind of leader figures, right? So these visions represent a departure from this view of decentralized leaderless communities advanced by infrastructural mutualists and digital metalists. The need for this project to have identifiable elements, a roadmap of future growth, known individuals as leaders, point to project websites and social media platforms that support the contents which help to convince people of the possibility of forming a community around a project. Okay, to conclude, towards the end of an interview with one of my participants, Rory, after having discussed at length the NFTs that remained in his digital wallet, all of which belonged to projects that now had rapidly declined in value. Basically, he had loads of worthless NFTs in his wallet. I asked him if he'd ever been tempted to just realize his losses, to just sell all his remaining NFTs. After pausing for thought for a moment, he said, I don't see any urgency yet, because the NFT market is kind of a miracle sometimes, you know? And everything can happen in a bull market. So I just want to hold on for a little bit, you see, to see how the project will turn out. And also in a bull run, whether these old projects might kind of revive and all the activities return again. So I wouldn't mind, because I've sold 1 or 2 of my NFTs at a loss before because I needed the liquidity at that time. But now I really don't need the liquidity. So I figured there's no rush in selling. I don't need the money to buy something else yet. So Rory's quote here is really emblematic of the overall sentiment expressed by so many of my participants towards the NFTs that were seemingly now languishing in their digital wallets. On an initial reading, his description corresponds with Langley's description of the financial quality of liquidity, where it's viewed as the amount of money or credit accessible in a system at a specific moment. That the words liquidity and money could be used interchangeably indicates the commensurability of the two. But on a closer reading, two other aspects of liquidity can be perceived here. First, Rory talks about needing liquidity, as if it is something to be possessed. Second, he also indicates an expectation for revival of this project or the resumption of activities, suggesting that the project community and its community is still in existence somewhere, even though it might be highly dissipated. It is out there somewhere. So this leaves Rory, like many of my participants, holding on to the hope that there might be a reversal of fortunes on the NFT market. You know, it's like, to go back to that example at the start, like an NFT is just a ticket to a community. Those people are still out there, and they still all got their golden tickets somewhere, right? So this final empirical example of Rory's apathy towards his NFTs, tempered by his willingness to hold on to them, owing to this vague prospect that the enthusiastic market participants might spontaneously re-emerge, really well illustrates the imaginative thinking at play in present-day cryptographic communities that surround NFTs. So in this paper, I've argued that Hong Kong-based NFT collectors advance this notion of liquid communities as a way of understanding the NFTs held in their digital wallets. Practices of grinding for whitelist places see autonomous community members temporarily coming together to engage in like-minded labor practices driven primarily by neoliberal ideals of self-governance directed towards individual gain rather than activity with the explicit goal of maintaining decentralized infrastructures or establishing alternatives to centralized economic institutions. Technical analysis of charts treated liquidity not as a pure economic measure, but as something to be divined through combining different pieces of quantitative and qualitative information. Roadmaps of imagined futures of NFT projects, aided by the willingness of their leaders to forego this cryptographic anonymity, present narratives of future community development that, while being liquid, are also predictable, standing in contrast to the radical, leaderless, decentralized, and dynamic ideals of infrastructural mutualists and digital metalists alike. So these liquid characteristics of online communities surrounding NFT projects allow collectors to make sense of their relationships with the digital assets they own. They possess both quantitative and qualitative characteristics, functioning as a financial measure, but also as a metaphorical device that offer members of NFT communities alternatives to competing ideals of infrastructural mutualism and of digital metalism. The strong connection here between platforms and liquidity that we see in this study can help to rethink an understanding of what platforms are. Gillespie points out the insufficiencies of this metaphors of passage idea that are often applied to platforms, and particularly to social media. That all platforms do is control the flow of information by deciding who gets through the gate and who does not. Rather than treating platforms as neutral intermediaries, might the liquid communities that emerge from these technologies also provide us good cause for attempting to apply the metaphor of liquidity to platforms themselves? A notion of liquid platforms might provide a scope to acknowledge the multiple layers of platform infrastructures. You know, and I think that, you know, the very word platform implies something fixed, right? The train goes across the platform. And I think there's a really interesting assumption there, right? So can we think of liquid platforms, you know, that acknowledge the multiple layers of platform infrastructure, digital wallets, OpenSea, Discord, X, that are drawn upon to coordinate and coalesce different types of flow, be that monetary, informational, or relational, and how these are always in reciprocal relationships with each other and therefore must be artfully aligned by users. In this way, liquidity arguably constitutes its own metaphorical economy that has the power to permeate and also to transform fields, carrying with it distinct rhetorical and operational patterns of management that, if we properly acknowledge, might shed light on the possible future contours of platform economies amid the ascendancy of decentralized technologies. Thank you very much.
I can use this, it's okay. Anybody has any questions, please raise your hands. We're going to hand our microphone. Okay, okay. So maybe this way first. Okay. I'm going to. Oh, can you use this? And
Yeah,
I'll
no
hand it to
worries.
them.
Of course, of course.
Hi, Tom. Thank you for the present. I got two questions. The first one is, maybe I missed it, but you mentioned that your interviewees are like from a lot of different occupations and like life status. Like there's some students, some like organizers and stuff. But do you get to know their like economy status and class? That's the first question. Yeah.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so, you know, we ask them a little bit about what they do, but also kind of the nature of, you know, people who are involved in this are also a little bit guarded. So I have to confess that, you know, so yeah, on one aspect, we didn't run through a questionnaire. We didn't ask them how much do you earn in a month or what job do you have or whatever. But at the start, we did ask to people, we did start our interviews by saying to people, tell us a little bit about your background and who you are and whatever. But we left it pretty open in that way. So we didn't, you know, have a rigorous, like, what do you do as an occupation? And, but you know, the other side of this is that, you know, there were, with some interviews, there were some really telltale signs. So, you know, we even had, because people, we were doing this through Zoom, right? So people have their webcam and, you know, not everybody, some people do it from their home. So actually, you know, you see some of the people we interview, you know, they're doing it from their bedroom in a very small flat in Hong Kong or whatever. So you can pick up some given off information, get feelings of people. And then, you know, it went all the way to the extreme opposite. So, you know, I think of all the people we spoke to, honestly, I feel only a couple of people actually had made money doing this, right? And interestingly, they were the most savvy people. So they were the people who did the interview and they did the screen share, but they kept their camera off, right? And they were the ones, in a way, most guarded. Like they were the ones earliest in and everything. But even with them, like, you know, as an anthropologist, you know, even though this is an interview and a kind of compressed bit of research, you know, you still get pieces of information. So it was fascinating with one of the really kind of successful people, even though they kept their camera off, I could actually hear bird song, like birds tweeting, because he kept like birds in his house in Hong Kong. So you know, even with that, you kind of start to paint a picture and get a feel for who this person is. And you know, to be able to keep birds in your house, you have to be living in a relatively comfortable conditions, right? So, you know, I think there's all kinds of ways you can get a feel for that without doing something as mechanical as like doing a survey or asking people before the interview, like to what income they had. So I guess that's a bit of a roundabout way of answering your question, but you know, as anthropologists, we often just follow our feelings, you know, rather than trying to like split people into like social classes, although I'm from a sociology department.
Sure. It's a great answer. Anyways, the second question is about the key concept of community, like liquid community.
Yeah.
There's, like you mentioned there's an internal tension between the word community of what it used to mean and what it means now in liquid community, which kind of have no connection with what we imagine a community to be in like previous societies. So can you explore more, elaborate more about like why you choose this term and how it's different from the way we perceived communities before?
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for putting me on the spot and asking a hard question. So I guess there's two elements to this, or maybe three. So the first one is that I guess with a kind of, if you work, even though this isn't proper long-term ethnography, if you kind of work with anthropological sensibilities, we tend to be more interested in the concepts that our participants put forward, rather than trying to grab an outside concept and plant it onto our participants, which links back, I think, beautifully to kind of Jason's presentation before, right? Which is also questioning why we have to use the Western scholars' ideas, right? So the other approach to that is the anthropological one, which is we don't even take you know, our ideas from the Filipino scholars or whatever place or the Chinese scholars. We take it from our actual participants, right? Because they're the philosophers. They are the, you know, they're the ones reflecting on it. So, so the liquidity thing kind of came partly from them using these terms liquidity, using these terms community. And I guess I just did a little bit of imaginative work to kind of, you know, to tie that together. So that's one aspect. The other aspect that I'm well aware of in this talk is I actually didn't provide you guys with a kind of review of how the concept of community has been understood in anthropological terms or in sociological terms. And that's because I honestly haven't gone and read the literature yet, but I think you know, I think that's probably something that I need to do, right? Because I think one question for me that I need to think through is that, you know, we have this kind of, you know, our participants seem to think in these kind of ways. And one answer is, at the moment, this paper is trying to say, well, how can we use that to rethink platforms? But the other thing we could do is say, well, how can we use it to rethink the way we've talked about community or you know, that, you know, in sociology or in anthropology. So, yeah, I don't have a good answer. Just I need to do more homework. Apologies.
Good afternoon, Tom. Thank you for your wonderful speech. I have a question for you that we know the advantage and disadvantage of having a central authority. Also, it may have a public opinion guidance. It also helps us to conduct some lower quality scoring, right?
I'm so sorry.
I
think
so
could you just speak a little louder? Sorry.
Okay. After more community formulating, and could you explain more from the NFTs or communities aspect about in the decentralized world, how we can deal with and how can we select the NFTs or communities between high view and high quality?
Yeah.
The balance of between the high quality and high value.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, great question. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
So this is like, you know, how should we, I guess you're asking, if I can just rephrase your question to make sure I understand. I guess kind of, are you asking from a more applied perspective that how could we use these kind of insights to figure out kind of what makes a good NFT community and how we could encourage kind of communities that have good quality of interactions and this kind of thing. Am I understanding correctly?
I mean, because in the central community, maybe it will have some opinion guidance, but will help us select more high quality information, right? But in the decentralized world, we should select ourselves. So how can we how can we balance?
Okay, I understand now. Perfect. Yes, thank you. Yeah. So. Yeah. So. Well, I'm not sure. I don't know. I think that's a really good question. I mean, I'm not sure you can always believe, you know, the quality of information coming from kind of centralized channels or whatever. You know, for example, you know, the world at the moment is seeing enormous problems with fake news, right? So often these are from very centralized channels, but often this kind of quality of information you know, may not necessarily be good. So I guess part of the answer, you know, is that maybe you know, what we see in an example like this is that participants develop their own ways very quickly, their own kind of embodied knowledge, their own systems of knowledge for kind of figuring out this themselves, right, within these kind of communities. So, yeah, I think, I'm not sure I'm answering your question very well, but you know, yeah, I mean, I'm a great, yeah, I mean, actually, I think I'm impressed by the kind of the level at which these participants just organize this themselves, and they, and also, sorry, just to go back a little bit, is also I think that with this kind of liquid community, actually, this really is something that isn't kind of what we associate with these kind of traditional crypto communities, right? Because when when Professor Huang was giving his opening talk, he said we often pay attention to the shareholders, not the stakeholders, right? And I think the benefit of kind of going out and just speaking to these like part-time NFT collectors who you know all have office jobs or they're students in school or whatever. These are not people who you know really go and join some kind of you know pop-up crypto city. They don't kind of, you know, they kind of buy into this stuff a little bit, but not all the way, right? And at the moment, I think a lot of our understanding of kind of, you know, these kind of crypto communities, it focuses on things that are very close to these kind of original ideals. So things like digital metalism, which basically says, you know, things like Bitcoin are digital gold and you can't trust anybody, you know, and that's one vision of society. And the other that I think we saw very beautifully yesterday was like infrastructural mutualism, where everybody is kind of sharing and like, you know, developing this kind of alternative vision of something. And actually I feel these people, this kind of liquid community that I'm trying to talk about, they're neither of these camps. They're just somewhere in between. They, you know, every day maybe they have 20 minutes to open up their phone and look at like, what's the price of Ethereum today, or they look at that NFT that's no longer worth anything in their wallet, and that is their engagement. You know, maybe they look at X for a minute or two, or Instagram to look at like where they follow that project that they bought something from and they see a post. And I just feel that they're a kind of stakeholder, but we don't pay that much attention to them because they're kind of just so dispersed and so marginal and whatever. And hopefully that this kind of concept might be a little bit useful in kind of attuning us to the fact that they're out there. And they are a community, but they're very loosely connected. I finally got to an answer. Sorry it took me so long.
Mr. Tom, a quick question. I'm sorry. Even though it's your field is related to anthropology, can you just say how many percentage you can say that the NFT collectors or liquid communities are attracted or impact through the digital platforms or the digital gadgets which they have, you think it will be affect the markets, NFT markets?
What percentage are attracted by the digital platforms?
Yeah, digital platforms and digital gadgets because of those communities.
Yeah. So you mean? So is your question that is it that attraction that got them into NFTs in the first place?
Exactly.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Great question. I mean, again, as an anthropologist, I'm so terrified every time I give a statistic, but I feel like I could give this one easily, 100%. You know, one of the common feelings of talking to these people is they're really nerdy. You know, they're really in a good way. Like, that's not a bad term. It's like, you know, they're geeks, but but they range. You know, you have a kind of guy who's an investment banker, so he's a geek, but he understands all the stuff, like the really technical stuff behind blockchain. But then, you know, one of the other examples we had that was amazing is we had a school kid who wasn't even of age to open a digital crypto wallet, right, and buy cryptocurrency. So he actually had to get his older sister to open the wallet with her and do all the KYC with her identity documents, and she was helping him to buy the Ethereum so that he could buy the kind of the crypto thing. So the older sister just didn't understand any of it. And here was the school kid kind of telling her how you could do it, right? Which I think was another great example. So I just feel that actually you have all those people, but also the other reason why I just feel like I can kind of say 100% is that normally I would never use this interview. Like, the idea of doing Zoom interviews for me is just awful. As an anthropologist, I want to hang out with people, like spend time with people. But actually, for this group of people, they loved this. This is how they were used to kind of, I mean, many of them had pandemic online learning or online meetings in their own workplaces. But also, you know, outside of work, they were always on Discord with their kind of people. They were doing video chats and so when we also asked them, how do you learn about this? And almost all of them, the main way they learned was YouTube. They just told us, oh, there's all these KOLs will teach you how to buy crypto, right? How to buy NFTs. So I really felt that this was like their native way of conversing, right? And they were so comfortable with chatting to us on Zoom and sharing things through screen share that it was just any other way I wouldn't do this kind of approach. But I just felt like, yeah, this was the culture of these people, right? Even though they're from quite different backgrounds, if you like. Thank you.
Thank you. And okay, we're open to the last 1 or 2 questions, so please raise your hands if you want. So many. Okay, maybe.
Thank you, Tom. So I'm wondering, like, if you theorize, and I think this is a great concept, liquid platforms, but I wonder like how far the liquidity really goes, because to me it seems like when I did the NFT project in Hong Kong, it was a very specific time and place for Hong Kong, right? So it was during the pandemic, it was after the protests, and there were a lot of startups that had just come up in the city who pushed the NFT market. And they also communicated on particular platforms that would maybe not go across the border into, for instance, mainland China, or maybe into like other parts of the world. So I'm wondering, like, what are, again, I don't want to push you on political economy or so, but what are the political, legal, pandemic kind of moorings of that liquidity for that particular study?
Yes, absolutely perfect question. So, you know, I had kind of, I felt that there was one implicit, you know, there was a really interesting dynamic actually, because as you say, you know, in Hong Kong, I think when we were doing this data collection, like when we started, we were already 2 years into lockdown, right? Like, and in Hong Kong, it was, you couldn't leave Hong Kong, like, which is a very small city. Well, you could, but it was very difficult to come back, and like kind of 2 or 3 weeks in quarantine, very expensive. So many people stayed. And, you know, by the time we'd finished, it was already almost coming up to 3 years, right? So one aspect of this really was like a feeling that, you know, I really felt that there was this, you know, here was being presented this kind of borderless world, borderless economy, borderless transactions that were also kind of, you know, cryptographic. They were also private, you know, but also in some sense very public. They're on a public ledger, so you can see. So definitely there were these, what we, you know, the term we would use is affordances, right? And, you know, blockchain has this unique set of, and NFTs kind of combined, have these unique set of affordances that I think really spoke to that historical moment and societal moment in Hong Kong around 2022, where kind of people are, and it goes back to my mobile methodologies, because the one thing that wasn't mobile was the people, right? We were all stuck. So there was this very, you know, and you know, there's this great kind of irony. I was Zooming people who were literally 10 minutes away. You know, I could walk down the street and kind of meet them, but we preferred this thing. So, you know, there is a kind of, I think that is an element that, again, created that liquidity. And then just the end point of that, just to move it to where we are now. So why, you know, so actually I think, and this is kind of my ongoing project, which is a bigger thing about Hong Kong and its kind of dream about Web3, is that I think actually, you know, since then, you know, where blockchain has moved in Hong Kong is to, you know, increased financialization and regulation, and, you know, blockchain is now something that should be done by HSBC or Standard Chartered or, you know, the monetary authority. So that's a big kind of transformation. And, but NFTs are still there. And there are kind of local companies pushing NFTs, but it is now in gaming as the kind of area where it is, you know, kind of maybe still has this liquid element of liquidity.
Okay. Hi, Tom. This is Fida from Singapore Management University. So thank you for the talk. I have a question and probably some follow-up comments. So with all your interactions with these NFT collectors, what do you think is the different characteristics of an NFT that makes it different from other collectibles in weaving this community? Because you know, you can collect other cards, you can collect other things, but what makes NFT different in, you know, putting people together for this community?
Yeah.
The second follow-up question is that, how do you think your notion of this liquid platform different from, you know, the DAO notion, right? Decentralized autonomous organization, because naturally all these owners of an NFT, they sort of like form a community that we usually call them as a DAO, right? And what will be the difference between these two notions? Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for the two great questions. First of all, I apologize because for the first question, I'm actually going to do the most laziest thing, which is quote somebody else. So there's a great scholar called Rachel O'Dyer, who's recently written a book called Tokens. And actually she says something great about NFTs. I think her definition of NFTs is the most astute one. And she just says NFTs shouldn't be scarce, but they're made to look like they are. So the thing about an NFT is it's a JPEG, it's a digital file. We can copy it 1,000,000 times. But what they've done is, you know, all they've done is add a token onto this file that says this is the unique JPEG, right? But actually, you can, you know, you can copy and paste the image 1,000,000,000 times, right? So in a way, it's a kind of what we would call a sleight of hand. It's a trick to make you think this thing is valuable when it's something that you can just replicate. Actually, I think just know, just at a very basic level, once you know that, then isn't it fascinating that all this social phenomena and kind of practice and economy and people spending money and doing things and grinding and working and talking and meeting and exchanging emerges from this, you know? And it would never happen if you could just copy the thing and replicate it. So I guess that's, I know I'm stealing an idea from her, and I apologize, but my gut feeling is that is the kind of, at the very, very, very fundamental base level, that is the single thing that makes all of this like complex social phenomena emerge. So I hope that answers part A. But I'll try and do part B, which is just like the difference from a DAO. Yeah, so great question. Yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to say that with a DAO, a lot more of the governance or the action happens on chain. Like a lot more of the kind of decision making is in the code itself of how a DAO is run. But actually, I'm not even, now I say that expression, I say that answer, I'm not even sure, because actually when you go and see DAOs, you actually see a lot of the negotiation goes on around a dinner table or at meetings or stuff. But at least with this, I guess, you know, I guess a DAO is kind of a technological device, as well as being, you know, as well as being like a organizing principle that people organize around. Whereas I guess this kind of, yeah, liquid communities is just far more metaphorical and far more ethereal, right? It's much harder to pin down. But maybe that's also symptomatic of this technology and the people who are interested in it.
Allow me very quickly comment on the first part. I'm not sure if I can entirely agree with your first part. I'm going to share more at my tomorrow's talk. I think the unique thing about NFT is about programmability, because I think that's being very underplayed and underestimated by the community. The fact that, you know, NFT would outlive its collectors, and you can actually incorporate the collector's information in the live form. It's a, you know, it's a co-building process. So that part, I think, is right now, I don't think there is a lot of appreciation of that. And yeah, so we can talk more about it.
No, I think I absolutely agree with you, and I think it comes back to the fact that you know, people just think of buying this thing at the moment as an entry ticket, right? And for them, you know, all these things, I mean, you know, people talk about smart contracts. They did talk about that in interviews. And, you know, they talk about the fact that, oh, you know, maybe there's a different revenue sharing where on a resale, the creator gets paid and things like that. So those things come up. But actually, I think, like, I completely agree. But what's interesting is, you know, the true kind of capabilities of the smart contract are not nowhere near being realized, right? So again, for them, it's just like, it goes back to that kind of imagined future. So all they want to do right now is get on the bus, buy the ticket and get on the bus. But and you know, their idea is, 10 years down the line, there'll be some fancy smart contract that is like rewarding me billions, like, or, you know, I'll be able to get the ticket to go to the spaceship because I got the NFT like 10 years ago, you know? So yeah, I completely agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so maybe you guys have more questions, but because our time is limited and our time is run, so let's just stop here. And that is all of our panel 2 session. Let's say thank you to Tom and Jason Vincent. Thank you. And because we will have a graduate student forum after 5 minutes, so you guys can take 5 minutes rest, go to the bathroom, grab a drink, don't be too far away, and just see you later in 5 minutes. ongoing studying program. And because it will be a very long time, so everybody will have like 5 minutes for the speech and 15 minutes for the speech and 5 minutes for the Q&A session. So if you guys have questions, please, I don't know there is a QR code of our Slido. You can send question to the QR code so that we can collect it. And or you just simply raise your hand after everybody's presenting. Okay. So I think is Roy 在了吗? Is 任炳林 here? Are you ready? Okay, then we're going to start. So the first speech was delivered by the graduated student from China Academy of Art, Ren Binglin. His speech topic is FU Zen's Gaming Odyssey, Decoding China's Computer Culture Through Joystick. Welcome.
Okay, thank you to you. So, hello everyone. I'm truly excited to be here today to share the story of Meet Fu Zan. Okay, Fu Zan was once a middle school teacher and a photographer enthusiast. By a twist of fate, he became a pioneer in integrating gaming and education in China, playing a vital role in the country's early computer literacy efforts. His journey amplifies how games can be a powerful tool for learning and reflects the unique path China has taken in combining modernization with educational innovation. So let's go back to the late of 1980s. And just like kids today, kids back then in China loved to play, but instead of high-end consoles or smartphones, they spend their time in gaming cafe, playing on Nintendo or Sega clone consoles that had been modified into coin-operated arcade machines. At that time, Fu Zan was a regular middle school teacher who, upon first encountering a game console, didn't just say a device for entertainment. To him, this console were potential educational tools, way to teach kids of typing skills or even programming. During 1980s, China was at the start of Deng Xiaoping's reform and opening up era, with a national focus on achieving the four modernizations: advance in industry, agriculture, national defense, and science and technology. As a symbol of technological process, computers quickly became a focal point for the governments and the society at large. However, personal computers at that time were prohibited, expensive, and complex, making them nearly inaccessible to the general public. People's understanding of computers was still limited to a sense of mystery and sophistication. At that time, Nintendo's rise marked a new boom in the video game industry. China's earliest gaming console mainly came through Hong Kong and Taiwan, including clones of arcade machine and the Famicom or the Super Nintendo. This advanced game device made a huge impact on teenagers of that time, creating an intense, immersive experience. Yet while video games sparked curiosity, they also met with skepticism, especially from those holding traditional values. Many people saw video games as potentially harmful and believing they could corrupt young minds or even ruin an entire generation. To these people, video game represented a risky and a foreign influence. However, Fu Zan's perspective was completely different from the mainstream view at that time. He recognized that even though many people had only a value idea of what computer could do, video games were a powerful force that couldn't be ignored. He noticed that Japan game industry, especially Nintendo, was advancing rapidly, with video game software revenue reaching level comparable to the automotive industry. Consider how central the car industry was to Japan's economy. Seeing a new sector thrive alongside it was astonishing. This realization led him to see games as more than just entertainment. He also valued tools for education and learning. Fu Zan recognized that China's situation was quite different from Japan's. Confronted with this culture shock of gaming, many parents and educators had varied views, seeing game as a harmful diversion. However, as a high school teacher and as a middle school teacher, Fu Zan didn't view games merely as a form of entertainment. Instead, entertainment, not education. Instead, he saw their potential to introduce computer concepts. He believed game could spark a natural curiosity in young people about computer technology, and the interest, after all, is the best teacher. By teaching students to write simple game programs, he introduced them to the basic programming language, gradually helping them understanding how computers work. Through this process, students found that computers wasn't as intimidating as they'd imagined. Instead, they were engaging and fun. Fu Zan's teaching approach not only helped students overcome their fear and computers, but also sparked a deeper curiosity and opened the door to the digital world. Additionally, the gaming environment in China back then was starkly different from the mutual market of Japan or the US. By the late of 1980s and early of 1990s, gaming industry in United States had reached a high level of development, with detailed game menus and even hotlines for gameplay counselor available to ensure players could easily get started. In contrast, Chinese players often encountered lacks accessibility to game menus and a language barrier when they obtained clone cartridge. Additionally, many games back then had minimal user interface without any instructor, leaving players uncertain about how to begin. So, to help Chinese players who struggled with the lack of game industries, Fu Zan decided to write a comprehensive guide to popular games. In 1990, he published this book called Television Games, a quick guide. As one of the earliest gaming publications, this book not only offered detailed information on popular gaming consoles of that time, but also providing operational instructions for the games. This practical guide also served as a recommendation handbook, just like the Whole Earth catalog, featuring rating and review similar to today's scoring platform like Douban or like IGN. This guide became a major success, going through 5 reprints and selling about 250,000 copies, setting a record for science-related publication in the province he lived. A particularly innovative aspect of this guide was Fu Zan's use the collage to visualize the concept of combining a game console with a keyboard, promoting this idea widely. This vision inspired many Chinese game companies, including those at companies like Yuxing and Xiaobawang or Super, to develop affordable educational computers that combine keyboard-based console and education cartridge. While in countries like US and Japan, similar peripheral devices was typically seen as accessories for consoles. In China, education computer gradually evolved into standalone educational tools, carrying significant social and political meaning in the context of national computer literacy and modernization. Let's look at the content of the education cartridge, which was Peng An's recreation at computemuseum.com. The first one is a typing game. Let's have a look. This is a web-based simulation of that console. So this is the music of that cartridge. So here's 8 softwares, and this is the typing game. This is very simple, but I think it's very effectively for that time. So the second one or the third one is called the window to the music, and it's a digital keyboard. And it can actually build some 8-bit music. So the last one is of F-Basic. It's like a simple basic programming language on that cartridge. So I just type some very simple it's a network society. So in other words, for typically Chinese household, education computers represent more than just an introduction to computers. They symbolize a pathway to modernization. The widespread adoption of these machines bridge the gap between ordinary families and cutting-edge technology, allowing children to not only play games, but also to learn typing and basic programming. This fulfilled parents' educational expectation and recreate a unique phenomenon in Chinese society, where entertainment and education intertwined in a way that was both acceptable and aspirational. In 2005, Fu Zan left the middle school and took on the role of director at the Fuzhou Center for Educational Technology Museum, giving him more opportunities to expand his philosophy of learning through play. Using his free time, he began creating a website called the Digital Youth Palace. And over time, this site became a popular destination, trusted by parents and loved by children alike. The platform hosted a variety of educational, mind-sharpening games that allowed students to learn while playing, without parents worrying about excessive screen time. According to Fu Zan, this site eventually amassed over 60 million registered users, with more than 20,000 daily active users at its peak. So Fu Zan's story shows us that education and the video game aren't entirely opposite to each other. In a unique historical context, gaming consoles become more than just tools for entertainment. They also serve as a bridge to inspire children's learning and stimulate their mind. Fu Zan's contribution were pivotal in this evolution. He was not only a pioneer in integrating gaming, with education in China, but also a guiding light for countless future talents in computer science. Fuzan's story marks a key moment in China's journey towards modernization. Educational computers become more than entertainment and educational tools. They were gateways for average Chinese families to connect with the world of information and technological advancement. For families who couldn't afford personal computers, especially among the working class, education computers offer a simplified computer experience at home. This helps children grow and learning immersively, embody this era's strong aspiration for technological and brighter version of future living. Most importantly, this widespread adoption of educational computer was closely linked to China's unique social environments. This wasn't simply a case of imitating or replication or copycat. Rather, it was an adaptive innovation tailored to the country's specific economic conditions and the social demands. Education computers address the dual desire of Chinese families for education and technological and become symbolic of aspiration, carrying the hopes of generations for a better life. Through educational computers, many Chinese families felt the transformative power of technological for the first time, and with it, the potential to improve their lives and social standing. So therefore, the education computer is not only a collective memory for the generation like me and for many Chinese people, but also a practical tool for realizing the strategy of innovation China through science and education. These devices, combining education and entertainment and technology, has directly nurtured and nurtured and inspired many young people interested in computer, paving the ways of future career and contributing countless talents to China's modernization process. So from this perspective, educational computer symbolize the innovation, dreams, and the future of that era, representing the modest yet determined aspiration of the ordinary Chinese citizens towards a modern life. Through this effort of individuals like Fuzan, education computer transcend being merely a technological tool and become a symbolic presence representing the future in the hearts of the people from that era. So when we speak of education computer and of Fuzan, we were not just recalling a part of the history. We are examining the deeper connection among education, technology, and society. As Fuzan believed, games are not solely about entertainment. They can serve as a powerful educational tool, and this concept of learning through play remains deeply relevant today. So in closing, Fuzan's story reminds us that true innovation does not always rely on the latest technology. Sometimes it comes from finding the most fitting ways of apply existing resources and technologies to address real educational and social needs. His unique perspective on gaming sparked a love and computers in countless students, pushing forward China computer science awaken. This is not merely a redefinition of gaming and education, but also through thoughtful exploration of how modernization can be realized. So finally, I want to thank to Ms. Fuzan for granting us an interview and sharing such richful stories and information. And I also give my gratitude to all the guests here. Thank you.
So So now we have 5 minutes Q&A time. So if you guys have questions, please raise your hand. Do you have any questions? Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for a tremendous presentation. One question I just wanted to know. I think you did a great job of showcasing the significance of Mr. Fu Zhan. What I would like to ask you is just how did you find out about this individual, and to what extent do people in China already know or do not know about his story?
I believe it's not very many to know his story because the commercial part of his products is not so widespread, spared, but he inspired many businessmen to continue his dreams of education and technologies to the common citizens of China. And I read this story about it's at a very old magazines. It shows there's 4 copycats or 4 Shanghai stories about a gaming console, and he was one of that stories. And so we try to connect with him and try to do some interview and get some very intimate information and stories from him.
Okay. Any more questions? We're going to have 2 minutes left, so if you have questions, please hurry up. Okay, if there is no more question, then we're going to move to the next speeches. Thank you, Roy.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. The next student is Xu Ke from Institute of Network Society. Her speech title is The Global South Under Digital Colonialism, Disappeared Social Media and China's Revelations.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm a student of Institute of Network Society. Today my presentation topic is about social media. So the first concept I would like to discuss with everyone is digital colonialism. When Western countries colonized other nations, they had a habit of building structures in their own national style. In China, this is known as concessions. There are lots in Shanghai like this. When the internet era began, physical spaces transformed into social media spaces, with houses becoming platforms like Facebook, X, and Instagram. In my investigation of social media, I wanted to know, where did the local social media of the Global South go? Aside from those of the developed Western countries. Fortunately, during my research, I did discover local social media platforms that many countries in Southeast Asia once had. These platforms initially had a user base in their respective countries or regions. Like this, Zingme was a social network that was launched in 2009, developed by the Vietnamese tech unicorn VNG, created by Vietnamese people. Its inception was considered the beginning of the social networking era in Vietnam. It was once the most visited social network in Vietnam, with nearly 1 million users, and became a fond memory of youth for many Vietnamese. However, Zingme's glory did not last long. Within just a few years, Facebook surpassed and replaced Zimi. Additionally, several African countries once had local social media attempts, such as Mixit, which was an instant messaging platform launched in South Africa in 2005. It became widely popular across multiple African countries. At its peak, the platform had over 50 million registered users, with millions of active users logging in daily. Mixit had a profound impact on South African society. For many young Africans, it was their first experience with the internet and digital socializing. Here is a comparison of user data from that time. However, within the proliferation of smartphones and the entry of international platforms like Facebook and WhatsApp into the market, Mixit's user base gradually declined, ultimately leading to its closure in 2015. Hike Messenger is an instant messaging application developed in India, founded in 2012, with the aim of competing with international platforms like WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. It once garnered significant attention in the Indian market and peaked at over 100 million users in 2016. Hike Messenger attempted to advertise on the Facebook. However, a spokesperson for Hike stated in an interview that Facebook blocked an option in their advertisement, preventing users from accessing Hike's official website. Facebook also shamelessly confirmed this. Later, as WhatsApp rapidly expanded in the India market, Hike soon found it difficult to compete with global platforms. In 2021, Hike announced the closure of its core messaging function. This image shows a statement from the founder and CEO of Hike at that time. This is quite regrettable, as Hike emphasized localization in its product design, providing support for multiple Indian languages, which allowed users to communicate in their familiar languages. It also launched special themes and stickers during festival in India, like that. So why did Hike fail? Is it really inferior to WhatsApp? Are the disappeared local social media platforms like Zimi and Mixit necessarily worse than Facebook, Twitter, and others? I don't think so. On the contrary, WhatsApp does not consider the real needs of Indian residents, and Twitter's character limit does not adjust for different languages. Social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube have quickly entered the markets of Global South countries through technological advantages, capital support, massive advertising investments, global network effects, and control over data resources, leading to a kind of dimensionality reduction attack on developing countries, which has caused some local social media platforms to decline or even disappear. So when Western countries built their structures on colonies, they inevitably had to demolish the existing houses. Regarding how many local social media and communication tools have disappeared in the Global South, I believe this is a massive statistical topic. But I cannot currently outline it entirely. However, I want to raise awareness about this issue. And I sincerely hope to hear the voice of local people in Thailand and the Global South. So are there still places in the Global South that cannot access the global internet? Of course there are, and one of the largest countries is China. This leads to my second question. Why does China build the Great Firewall? In 1998, the Chinese government launched the Great Firewall Initiative. Since then, China's internet environment has been isolated from the external internet, creating a relatively closed ecosystem where many mainstream global websites and services cannot be accessed within China. Initially, this was due to some political reasons that I cannot disclose, but ironically, because international social media platforms were blocked, Chinese local companies were able to fill this market gap, rising rapidly to dominate the space. For example, local platforms like Weibo, similar to Twitter, WeChat, and QQ, 豆瓣. So they quickly grew and became an integral part of the daily lives of hundreds of millions of users. The closed environment reduced foreign competition, allowing Chinese tech companies to receive substantial capital investment, enabling them to build a robust user base and iterate and innovate rapidly. So, Chinese local social media platforms have also taken into account that behaviors and cultural characteristics of local users, designing products that better meet local needs. For example, WeChat's red envelope feature and emoji culture tap into the social customs of interpersonal connections and entertainment demands in China. But currently, China is no longer content with merely advancing the development of social media within its own borders. We are building a digital Silk Road, investing in infrastructure such as fiber optic networks, data centers, and 5G technology in multiple countries and regions through the Belt and Road Initiative. This provides these countries with more options, allowing them to no longer rely entirely on Western technologies and companies for internet access, thereby gaining greater autonomy in the digital economy. So the online freedom advocacy organization Open Rights Group has used to stated countries like Zimbabwe or Djibouti or Uganda do not want to join an internet that merely allows access to Google and Facebook. What China is practicing and promoting is precisely this, as no country wants its sovereignty to be undermined even in cyberspace. The concept and slogan of the right to the city was first introduced by Henry Lefebvre in his book published in 1968. As nearly 60 years have passed, and in an era where people spend several hours each day immersed in cyberspace, shouldn't we begin to consider what the right to social media might entail? Like the Arab Spring of 2010, Black Lives Matter, and the hashtag #MeToo movement. That seems to suggest that the social media created by capitalists are symbols of social progress, and this appears to embody the right to social media. But was there no power for change before social media? There were text messages from social media, and before text messages, there were newspapers. We have always had the power of revolution. It is not something that advanced social media has bestowed upon us. On foreign websites, there have long been videos secretly filmed by Chinese men that invaded the privacy of Chinese women. In early 2022, BBC reporters logged onto 3 of the hidden video sites. Many of the videos were shot on subways in major Chinese cities. Among the more than 10,000 paying members of these sites, most were Chinese men. So the issue is this: Chinese men are using Western social media platforms to oppress Chinese women. The file will not prevent the infringement of women's rights on the so digital sovereignty is merely an extension of national sovereignty into cyberspace. Even within the Great Firewall, Chinese women cannot escape digital colonialism, as it colludes with patriarchy. So technology is not an antidote. Despite China's advanced capability, it still can bully its own citizens. What we need is a new vision to guide the direction of technological development. As that direction itself is the antidote, what should right to the social media aim to achieve? I'm not entirely sure, but I do know that who decides the direction of technology progress is critical, and who press a new vision for social media is even more important. The new vision cannot first come from the capitalists and elite classes who established the current social media platforms. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested largely by men we have ever heard of. However, I fear that in the digital age, it's more like encountering people we can't physically reach in real life. After all, a mask often posts disgusting remarks on X. So the people who should propose new visions for change are those who have been overlooked all along, like including women and global minority groups. It's a comic from Soviet. It shows capitalists, and in the back are soldiers. Also, recently, a Telegram chat room that used deepfake technology to create and share explicit videos of Korean women gained widespread attention, amassing an audience of over 200,000 men. Korean women even reached out for help on Chinese social media platform Weibo. In the fight against deepfakes, aiding Korean women also means helping ourselves. Zhang Xianyi, an algorithm engineer from the Chinese Academy of Science, participated in the Global Deepfake Detection Challenge and open-sourced an AI model called Deepfake Defenders to combat deepfake content. Chinese and Korean women have united, wielding the power of change to resist the oppression of women through technology on social media platforms. I think this is an example of the actions we can take toward a new vision. And Li Feifei used to say, in the age of internet, we are suddenly faced with an explosion of image data. I first learned about Tsinghua University not through academic research, but through this image data circulating on Chinese social media. Although most Chinese people do not know the source of this image, it has spread widely on Chinese social media and received many likes from Chinese women. I translate some of the comments. And we were all stunned by its power. Despite using different platforms and speaking different languages, This image state connected us, even though we did not know what was happening within it. Women always find their own way through the cracks, breaking through barriers of language and media. Millions of people in China experienced a moment of spiritual resonance with people from another country through a single image. Perhaps this is where we can begin, where new visions can emerge. Coincidentally, this photo is titled, "Your Future Depends on You." And this is also what I want to emphasize today. Let us propose new visions and become the decision makers, because our future depends on us. Let's take back our social media. Thank you.
Thank you, Shuke. Thank you, Shuke. Why it doesn't work? We have 5 minutes for the Q&A. Do you have any questions? Hello. I don't know why. Anybody has any questions? Okay.
Thank you very much for your very interesting and provocative talk.
Thank
Really
you.
liked it. Now, I'm just curious. I mean, you mentioned all these platforms and Hike. I know very little about them, but what I know is that Hike somehow missed the market segment to expand it before the entry of others. So, for instance, they were very active in the urban markets, but not in the majority rural markets. And that was one reason, so some analysts say, why it was overrun, basically. So I just want to play devil's advocate a little bit, instead of saying like all the bad Western platforms just overtake the world. I just want to hear a little bit of a more like maybe statistics or nuanced argument, like how that happened. I'm fully with you here with the Facebooks and all of that. I just want to make that clear. But I think if we want to say that with the digital colonialism and bring up some new arguments, I think we should support that by numbers, number one. Number two, I'm just curious, like, do you think we can solve the issue of gender marginalization through technology? It seems to be a little bit of a techno-deterministic argument. What other things can be done to fight institutionalized genderism and classism and racism? In China, I think because your paper is on China, maybe you can start there. And sorry, I know that was fast and a lot, so please, if you need some repetition.
I get it.
Thank you.
But sorry, I need to answer you in Chinese. Is that okay?
I guess so. I will read the translation. Thank you.
Maybe.
关于第一个问题，可能是我的调查上的一些失误，但是确实，WhatsApp 在印度的农村确实是有更大的占比的。这可能是 Hike Messenger 它自己可能政策上的一些失误吧。抱歉，这个我可能没有太调查清楚。确实是WhatsApp 在农村的占比比较高一点。具体中间他们两方到底是怎么对峙的？我觉得，我可能还需要更加细致的调查一些吧。然后关于第二个问题，就是其实在中国我们可以做的是，女性可以做的事情是很少的，因为像之前曾经。网络上也有过一些女权运动，但是很快就被打压下去了，甚至有一些进监狱的风险。所以现在说，可能不会有太激进的线下社会运动啊这样子。但在技术上，我觉得我们是可以有进步的方向的。比如说，我们有很多女性的程序员去开发一些比如说对抗Deepfake 这样的技术，在技术上我们是可以发展的，只是说在社交媒体上面去为女性发声有一些困难。不知道有没有解答您的问题？谢谢。
Did you get it? Oh, okay. So, okay, I think the time is run out. then we are going to move to our third student. Thank you, Xu Ke. Sorry. Okay, the third student. It's actually two students. Let's welcome Jiang Yizhu and Li Chenjing from the Institute of Network Societies, and their speech title is Innovation or Counterfeit, Rethinking the Transformation of Shanzhai. Welcome.
Hi everyone, we are from the Institute of Network Society of China Academic Arts, and I'm Jiang Yizhu.
I'm Li Chenjing.
So today we want to introduce our research on Shanzhai mobile phone. The word Shanzhai in the context of the mobile phone industry originally comes from unlicensed manufacturers in Shenzhen, who would mark their products with made in SA. Actually, the original SA stands for Shenzhen, but because of the way it sounds, SA became humorously known as Shanzhai, and this term quickly spread to describe these non-mainstream bands. Over time, Shanzhai has turned into a unique cultural phenomenon, reflecting the complex relationship between rapid economic growth and technological innovation. So today, mobile phones are essential in our daily lives, shaping a significant part of our social experiences. The meaning of mobile phone in China has changed dramatically over the years, from its early days as a symbol of power and unity to today's necessity of life. Most emphasize of Shanzhai label it as a form of counterfeit goods or fake products. However, we believe that the Shanzhai phenomenon offers a unique perspective to rethink the essence of innovation. It's challenging traditional innovation modes and shows how, in specific socio-economic contexts, no-cost and flexible approach can make market demands. The alternative innovation mode not only reflects China's unique tech culture, but also adds new dimension to global innovation theories. So let's talk about the background before the emergence of Shanzhai mobile phone. In the early days, China's mobile phone manufacturing industry relied on the introduction of foreign capital and technology. In 1980, the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone was established, and Hong Kong's electronic industry was transferred to Shenzhen. In particular, the joint venture model in the late 1990s. This model allowed domestic companies to learn foreign production, and starting in 1998, policy reform encouraged more domestic firms to enter the market, promoting bond development and rapidly expanding the industry through licensing. In 2004, MediaTek introduced the turnkey solution, which made mobile phone production more flexible and cost-effective. Enables small manufacturers to join the market. The rise of independent design houses further facilitated collaboration in in the industry by providing common circle, birds, and modes, knowing customization costs. So, in 2005, China implemented an approved system of mobile phone manufacturing, further renexing restriction on mobile phone production, licensing, and market access. Shenzhen's Huajiangbei emerged as a hub for Shanzai phones, attracting many entrepreneurs at the time. Due to the licensing system, manufactured without licensing labeled the products as made in SA. This situation changed in 2007 when the National Development and Reform Commission and the Ministry of Industry of Information Technology abolished the licensing requirements, reducing reducing legal barriers and stimulating growth in the mobile phone sector, leading to a boom in Shanzhai. So, yeah, okay.
Shanzhai phones first appeared as knockoffs of popular brands like Nokia and iPhone, often using names like Nokiri or iPhone. However, they are not merely poorly made face. In terms of design and functionality, they often reveal original products. The most notable feature of Shanzhai phones is their cheap price, with most selling for about under 1,000 yuan, approximately 1/10 the price of contemporary branded phones. The production cost typically Shanzhai phone can be controlled at around 400 yuan. Okay, since the peak days of Shanzhai phones are long below us, unfortunately. Many images from that area are difficult to preserve. Most of these images are sourced from web archives of the 2000 to 2010 period, when numerous online communities and the forums were abuzz with discussions among enthusiastic parts suppliers and phone vendors about very intriguing Shanzhai models. There were even dedicated websites for selling Shanzhai phone online. This picture, we select some of the most attractive Shanzhai models and created this phone chart in the style of classic online sales page from that time. Those phones are full of unique design and creative functions. You can find sports car phones, cigarette box phones, neon-light phones.
Okay.
Okay. And the Thunder Blaster with 8 speakers. The surprising multi-slide anechoic and era of watch phones predating the iWatch. Buddish culture phones, cartoon themes, children phones, compact power phones, and more. There are even a money director phone. Shanzhai manufacturers showcase remarkable creativity along with personalized elements. Buying a Shanzhai phone means more than just acquiring a product. It also signifies an identity, and it effectively reinterpreting mass demand and designs.
Yes, Shanzhai mobile phones are also highly flexible with the production to market timeline of the 14 days. Thanks to a general build system and the efficient 花腔-based supply chain. This chart outlines the supply chain and the associated costs. The rest of MTK chip technology lead to the emergence of IDH, which specialized in integrating MTK chipsets and other components onto motherboards. IDH sold these motherboards to phone manufacturer, often as reference designs. Unless integrators paid for custom vision or guarantee high seller volumes, integrator could then focus on phone design and model development.
In contrast, for legitimate branded phone companies, producing such low-cost, rapidly adaptable products at this astonishing speed is challenging. This is due not only to the long cycles involved in research, production, and market entry, which require substantial investment in design, but also because legal mobile phone production necessitates an approval license and incurs up to about 17% VAT and additional sales tax. At that time, the Chinese government's stance on Shanghai products was ambiguous. While publicly cracking down on Shanghai phone production in the name of protecting intellectual property, more and more productioners sought to legitimize their activities in legal areas. The central governments began to tactily support those companies in obtaining license.
Yeah, so around 2000, many domestic and foreign companies began to recognize the impact of informal products on brands and markets. However, intellectual property law often limits the meaning of cultural symbols and cultural symbol by objectifying them. This control leads to fiction or trademark meanings, which can become permanent. Consequently, as a symbol's value increases, so does its legal production, enhance mark value, and shielding intellectual property owners from competition, thus yielding great economic benefits. Western intellectual property law has transformed many intangible elements into privatized objects, separating owners from those who have not contributed to intellectual production, while obscuring underlying power dynamics. In globalized world, how do we distinguish the real from the fake? Who are the creators and who are the imitators? Where does intellectual property start and end? What defines the genuine product? Does chance prototypes risk falling into a trap set by those who control symbolic meanings? We don't want to challenge the intellectual property system, but to set aside a singular perspective on value and originality, and examine how Shanzai redefine our understanding of innovation.
Economics often compare Shanzai to good enough innovation, seeing it as a redevelopment of existing technologies or products. In this context, sufficiently low price and similar functions resonate well in the low-end market.
This perspective views innovation as an engine driving the market and facilitating capital circulation, reinforcing the myth of the innovation economy as value creation. However, this view overlooks that innovation is actually a collective process, especially in these earlier stages. It requires extensive trial and error, as well as society's willingness to bear uncertainty and risk, with Shanghai vectors acting as the risk barriers. During our field research in Shenzhen, Huaqiangbei, we interviewed former Shanghai phone manufacturers who once worked at Saige Plaza. When reflecting on the chaotic and fiercely competitive Shanghai phone industry there, most of them didn't see Shanghai phone as mere imitations or copies. Instead, they stressed that innovation and functionality were the core competitive strengths of this entire industry. For example, Xu's company was focused on producing phones for the elderly. Despite limited technological resources and an uncertain environment, it is a feature that only you contact children if they fail, something that even many modern user-friendly smartphones still don't offer. If we consider Shanghai phones as a distinct production model aimed at addressing the special needs of certain groups, could we think of this process as an innovation system? How could we understand this kind of innovation system where local participants focus on low-cost, high-efficiency, vertically integrated manufacturing and distribution? And perhaps most importantly, how has this unique tech culture been shaped by the conditions of the globalization or the network society? Those are some of questions we hope to explore in our ongoing research.
Yeah, here have two pictures. One is the real iPhone, and another is a Shanghai version named the iPhone. So in 2007, during Apple's first keynote, Steve Jobs said that there will be an iPhone. Today, we want to borrow it to say that there will be an Shanghai. Innovation often relies on established development paths. When historic circumstances grant a particular innovation a first mover advantage, subsequent advancements tend to follow its lead. Building up on and refine this initial breakthrough, once venture capitals and tech companies recognize the consumer market potential of an innovation and it becomes feasible for commercial use, a cycle of iterations shaped by consumer preference beginning to unfold.
It touched on Shanghai phones touched on a blurry space between global capitalist power market and state intervention mechanism. On the surface, it seems to be products driven by state and market forced. However, when we take a closer look at this complex historical moment, we can see that the Shanghai phone industrial and its tech culture connect more people to communication, entertainment, and the basic rights to meet everyday needs. This grassroots culture force has played a role in reshaping or weaving the social power structure, and the space where neither the state or the market has fully committed to or protect people's needs. These needs have gathered and take root with social power emerging through the process of Shanghai as people fully exploit the potential of the situation. Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
If you want to ask question, please raise your hand. Okay.
Okay, so thank you for your interesting talk. So I'm just thinking, if you think about this Shanzhai as a recreation or co-creation case, right? What do you think these Shanzhai manufacturers, they can claim in the process? I mean, do they claim some features or designs or some creative ideas, right? Or is there any way we can make it a win-win situation so the so-called those original manufacturers can actually benefit from the ecosystem that is enabled by these Shanzhai manufacturers, right? So, I mean, during your research, have you thought about that? Yeah.
We answer your question use the Chinese. Yeah, sorry. 我们其实是就是有关注到这一块的问题，但是其实我们今天只展示了我们研究的一个小的一个部分，因为其中涉及到像比如说更复杂的关于设计或者是侵权或者是这些东西的话，我们还在一个整理的过程当中。对，然后您提的问题也是我们非常关心的。
Yes, thank you for your talk. So I'm like from Germany. Like over there, they don't sell like fake phones or like cheap gadget phones. And I'm like curious, what is like the strategy of Shanzhai phones? Do they want to expand in the future, and like how the sales developed over the time?
I can use Chinese, right? 其实关于你好奇的这个问题，就关于山寨手机，他们厂商在那个时间段那么兴起，但后来为什么尤其是到了08年以后，他们都大部分的手机厂商都没落了。其实是因为在这个过程当中，一个是有一定的经济的原因，国内经济环境的原因，还有一个就是他们本身被小米像这样子的大品牌学习到了他们这种整合所有产业链的这样子的生产模式的这种经验，所以就所谓的就他们做不过这样子的大公司，但是大公司却买断了他们的这种策略，所以其实这也是我们比较遗憾的一个看到的一个点。但是我们可以通过过去的这段历史，可以看到那个技术它的另外的一条道路。谢谢。
Okay, since our time is run out, so let's move to the next speech. Thank you, Yizhu. Thank you, Li Chenjing. Okay. The next presentation is made by Han Jiaxin and Tong Zhaoxiang. They are also from the Institute of Network Societies. And the speech title is No Fighting, No Longhua, Field Research at Longhua Bus Station. Welcome.
Okay, I know everybody is here now, but I hope you can hold on. Okay, I'm very happy to share my research. No fighting, no Longhua field research at Longhua bus station. And I am Han Jiaxin. Here is my partner, Tong Zhaoxiang. So Shenzhen Longhua bus station is a residence of Sanhe drafters. So we need to know who are Sanhe drafters. In Chinese, it means Sanhe Dashen. So this is a Longhua bus station. Working along the first floor intermediary stairs, I heard a lot of hawking, such as ID cards for sale and WeChat accounts for 300 and so on. For the Sanhe drafters, when they are desperate, they would rather not work. They will sell everything they can sell. The market price of ID card is around 500 yuan, and agent legal person is around 3,000 yuan. We can see that many people sit on the steps during the day, and at night there becomes free accommodation. So Sanhe drafters refers to a new generation of migrant workers lingering in the job market. They are unwilling to work in factories and choose to muddle along. Sanghe comes from Sanghe Talent Market, a large recruitment company. So my inquiries, I learned that they would further subdivide the Sanghe drafters, like pure drafters refers to those who are completely unwilling to work. They would rather starve to death than work. And about health drafters, work 1 day, play 3 days is their attitude towards life. They still work, but only do daily settlement. As long as there is money to live, they are unwilling to work. And a word, Guabi, means hung on the wall, is the most common word used by Sanghe drafters. They usually use this word to express that they are going to live a poor life with no money to eat and sleep. Pure drafters are in the Guabi state, while health drafters are on the borderline of Guabi. So motorcycle drivers say that a Sanghe drafter starved to death at the bus station a few days ago, and the body was disposed by the government. About 10 people starve to death at Longhua bus station every year, but this number may not be accurate. So they have no plans for the future, but planning itself is the right of the upper class. The identity of Sanghe drafters is fluid, and Guabi is also fluid. When individuals realize that they no longer want to live like this and have certain material conditions, they maybe can get rid of this identity and this living state. So why so many Sanghe drafters gathering here? This is inspirable from the unique of Longhua bus station. So what is Longhua bus station? This is the location. So it's not only a bus station, but also a recruitment market. There are 16 intermediary companies inside the bus station. The main types of workers recruited here are dispatched workers and daily settlement. Migrant workers from all over China come here to find a way to stay in Shenzhen. Since the government decided to remote the Sanghe talent market 7 years ago, Longhua bus station has become the new residence of Sanghe drafters. So why has Longhua bus station become a large recruitment market? In briefly, with the combination of geographical and transportation advantage, policy support, and other factors, a large number of job opportunities and labor force have gathered here, thus forming a large recruitment market. And this was when I first come here in July. The empty square brought people together, and the open space in the square provided free sleeping and resting space for the drafters and workers. But in October, the green park was renovated here. The entire center of the square was fenced off. The lawn and the trails replaced the floor and the seats. I witnessed the transformation of the space here. So this is a tough explosion of underclasses in the process of urbanization. Parks and the green space have occupied the hotbed of Sanghe drafters, and more beautiful landscapes are inevitably driving away them who affect the city's appearance. So we already know that this is a big recruitment market, so how to find a job here? In general, at Longhua bus station, both intermediary companies and workers prefer labor dispatch workers. That is finding jobs through intermediary companies. Most of them are temporary jobs. Taking Folkestone in Shenzhen as an example, 30 of Folkestone employees are regular employees and 70 are labor dispatch workers. So let's see the intermediary recruitment process. This is a flow chart for migrant workers to find a job, so intermediary company. Due to limited time, I will not explain it in detail. Basically, the intermediary company recommends jobs, then sign dispatch contract, and then they pay wages after successful employment. But every step of this whole process may be deceived by unreliable intermediaries, as shown in the green walls. Then the following is a summary of the key points I made about the recruitment market. So field research, like fluctuation of wage during the peak period of student workers, which fluctuate between 9 to 20 yuan per hour. But in August and September, after student leave or after the New Year, factories are short of people, and the average wage is 23 to 30 yuan per hour. And the way these intermediaries make money is that they earn the difference in the hourly labor of workers, means the longer the working time of workers, the more the intermediary earns. So at Longhua bus station, there is another very common form of work, daily settlement. So this is an important gathering point for recruiting daily settlement workers at Longhua bus station. The recruitment time is not stable, mainly concentrated between 4 to 6 a.m. and 5 p.m. They are basically recruited by individual intermediaries. When they shot in the crowd, a large number of migrant workers will gather around. So daily settlement means that workers can get the day's wage after finish a day's work, but the work intensity is high and long hours of physical labor are required in a day. So in addition to the green economy, daily settlement is a relatively convenient and quick way for workers to obtain income in the short term. And then about surrounding servers facilities, it's about Sanhe drafters' real life. And there are recruitment markets all over China. But Longhua bus station combines the labor market with daily food, clothing, housing, and transportation to form a complete ecological chain, which is relatively rare in China. So we can see that many entities holding advertising write 25 yuan per night for one bed like this. They are looking for guests in every corner of the bus station. And this is, you can stay in the internet call for 8 hours overnight for less than 15 yuan. And this is the Longhua district government occasionally provides free accommodation here, but it is actually for the city appearance. Basically, some charity food such as bread is distributed once a week, and some public welfare organizations or Buddhist organizations come here to distribute free lunches. And these are the low-priced food provided around the bus station. The average price of a meal is around 5 yuan. So in daily life, the prices here are relatively low in Shenzhen, which allows people to maintain a life without working for a longer period of time with their already low wages. But this increases the stickiness of the drafters to continue to maintain this lifestyle. And why did Sanhe drafters appear in Shenzhen instead of other cities? As an important node in global manufacturing, Shenzhen achieved an added value from emerging industry equal to 41.9% of its regional GDP in 2023. Particularly in high-tech sector, Shenzhen has developed a comprehensive industry chain that includes research, production, and testing. Shenzhen's complete manufacturing chain and high-tech industry attract large numbers of laborers, forming a unified labor market structure. Informal employment forms are prevalent in Shenzhen, especially daily settlement, which avoid complicated labor processes and potential risks Due to their flexibility and instant salary, they can immediately meet the cyclical demand for temporary workers in Shenzhen's manufacturing and service industry, and also provide workers with flexible employment options. However, the lack of labor protections for daily settlement workers has gradually revealed its drawback, as a significant number of these workers have transitioned into Sanhe drafters. And the operation of migrant workers have happened in every corner of the world. Sanhe drafters began to appear around early 2010. For 40 years, there is still a warm land left in Shenzhen that allows them to continue to live in the city. That is what makes Shenzhen different from other cities for Sanhe drafters. And Shenzhen is a city built by migrants and is an immigration city. In 2023, the permanent no-registered population in Shenzhen accounting for 65.9% of the permanent population. Shenzhen has developed by relying on the immigrant population and is highly inclusive. And when you come, you are Shenzhen native is Shenzhen's slogan. Shenzhen is known for its open and inclusive culture. This cultural background makes Shenzhen accepting of people of different backgrounds and identities. And most importantly, Shenzhen's rapid economic development and industry upgrading require a multi-level labor market, including flexible informal employment forms. So, as mentioned above, Sanhe drafters is a fluid identity. They have been and may be available labor force in the future. So, in a word, why Shenzhen lets them stay here? Because Shenzhen needs them. And so this is the end of our research. But I want to share some personal feelings from my field work. Due to time limit, I only say one point. So the ongoing plight of women, we can look a video here. So we can see there are a lot of recommended videos on the internet that use women as bait to attract traffic. And the problem of women being objectified is more exposed in this group. And this is a man who followed us and stared at us at the bus station. So I want to say women will feel very uncomfortable here. So this is my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentations. Do you guys have any questions about Longhua bus stations? Okay.
Thanks for the very interesting presentation. I have a genuinely curious question because I went to Shanghai last year, and my experience there was it was very hard to use cash. Like all money transactions were digital. So I wanted to ask, in the context of the bus station, is it also digital? Like the money transactions, are they digital or do they use cash? Because you said it was a closed, like a complete ecology, right? So maybe they don't need to use the digital. So I'm just curious. How they change how they're paid, how they spend the money. Yeah. Thank you.
I speak in Chinese. Okay. 我这个龙华汽车站不是你所说的那个 汽车站。我说的汽车站是长途，例如从一个省去另一个省的这种汽车站。然后您说的汽车站可能是一个城市内的公交车站。然后这是我的理解。然后对于这个数字化的付钱，还是这个现金的这个付钱，就是中国的这个中国的这个现金这个支付普及的，就是现金和这个网络都可以用，所以并没有谁多谁少，就是都可以用数字。
Hi. During your talk, you use the word. I mean, it's a fantastic presentation, and during the talk, you use the word sticky to describe Longhua, which is really interesting. We talk about WeChat as like a sticky platform because you can do anything on there, and once you're on there, you can't get off, right? So I wonder, is Longhua bus station a platform? Like, can we think of it as this kind of thing? Is easy to use to think about this place?
可以这么说，它其实就是招聘市场。它其实就是一个找工作的平台，而且就是除了现场招聘之外，现在很多中介公司会利用社交媒体，而且就是用微信，就比如说建微信群，然后通过抢红包的方式，或者是每天更新信息的方式去维系它的这个用户群体。然后而且那边有很多会骗人的中介，所以它虽然是一个平台，但是它并没有那么可靠的安全性。
Okay, I think we have to move to the next speech. Thank you, Han Jiaxing. Thank you, Tong Zhaoxiang. The next speech will be delivered by a graduate student from CMU. They are Zhang Qikai. Oh, sorry, he's Zhang Qikai. And his speech topic is trust mechanism, an exploration of value negotiation in Asian Ethereum community. Welcome.
So thank you, everyone. I'm Chikai from Fudan University, actually. I'm a PhD student in media study, but I happen to be here for my field study in Chiang Mai. I stay in Chiang Mai for 3 weeks for pop-up villages because I'm researching on cryptocurrency communities, like not fluent community, like real communities that they bond to each other and know each other. So yeah, it's a really honor to be here. I'm super lucky, and I can get the opportunity to share my dissertation research with all of you. Oh, it's backward. Yeah. So here's a framework of my research. It's still an ongoing work. So since it's my dissertation rather than an essay, it's probably too much to cover today, but I will try my best. I will start with a theoretical framework using the concept of trust as a basic model for how medium work, to explain how medium work. The question of explaining how media work started by Marshall McLuhan directed our attention from content to media. So media is a message, right? And the way I want to contribute to this discussion, there's a lot of other modern media scholars pick up this topic and move forward. Will be a series by contrast amplification process. We could understand it in a common sense way that it's only when something is collectively trusted that it can become a media of our shared truth or belief, in which sense money is a great example, right? So the second part of my research will be a genealogy of money as trust technology. For this part and to get to know the very new form of money, which is crypto, I use anthropographic method starting from Chinese Ethereum communities like Uncommons and gradually approaching other crypto using communities. So yeah, that's why I'm here, and also I will be later to fly to Bangkok for DevCon. So among all the things that might be changed by crypto as a new trust technology, I think the most important thing is its interplay with our original value system. I want to make a point that crypto actually brings us a new space for what I call value negotiation, but it's still unclear where it would lead us to. So let's jump in the first part. So trust is actually a really broadly defined term, and many scholars, after researching into this term, have to admit that it has multiple meanings for our daily life. Among all the academic discussions of trust that I didn't show here, I wish to define trust in a really abstract way, that trust is a process of how symbolic structures simplify things outside. This describes a really common and fundamental functionality of symbolic structure. As we all know, symbolic structures are incomplete and self-referential. It has this nature. So I would think of this as a structure with an inside and an outside. So, I mean, for a person, if, as an example, things from the outside will appear unknowable, irrational, and incomprehensible to us. And trust is a way to bridge it to the knowable, rational, and analyzable world inside of that person. So by simplifying things outside to symbols inside. And we'll find that usually media has a role in collective trust. This is also argued by Luhmann and Giddens. For example, when we all believe in photos in newspaper is the truth, or we all believe money is valuable. So in this case, it is media that embody the symbolic simplification process and thus work as an anchor point between different symbolic structures that makes it works as media. But for media researchers, it's natural to ask how media manage to do that, right? So let's unpack this to the next level by coining two really simple terms, trust me and trust mechanism. Trust me, which is imitation of Foucault's term episteme, is just why something is trustworthy, which can be elaborated into a form of symbolic simplification enabled by certain material, culture, and institutional assemblages. We can take banknotes as an example because banknotes are really fragile. And it is because the banking system guaranteed to renew it that we trust this paper can embody our value. So there are many elements working together around a seemingly singular token. And then trust mechanism is just collective behaviors made possible by media of trust. However, notice here in the Venn diagram, sorry, there's some part covered downside. In the Venn diagram that trust mechanism and trust me actually has some overlaps. And I will define that by taking trust mechanism in two ways. So when you think of a trust mechanism, you can think of a mechanism of trust and a mechanism by trust. And what's left in trust me is the mechanism pre-trust. This interrelation is used to emphasize the entanglement of collective behavior and media. Well, in everyday life, we usually forget the role of media. Like when we talk about economics and market, we assume that it's there for humanity for all through the history, rather than enabled by certain type of monetary technologies. So with these two terms, I wish to differentiate myself from another two prevalent usage of the term trust. Trust as a subjective judgment and trust as an objective attribute of things, or trustworthy as an objective attribute of a thing. It's worth noticing that the former is often adopted by people thinking the whole crypto world is a scam because it's just people believing in virtual things. And the later one is especially common among cryptocurrencies, communities, since Satoshi famously narrative that blockchain is a trustless currency, while actually the function of any money fundamentally would count on trusting people acknowledging it in the future. So we should have a bigger picture of trust issues. Another usage of this Venn diagram is to put a direction on it. Sorry, it's covered a little, but I can elaborate it. So this direction actually denotes a gradual process of how certain sign, material, or infrastructure become a trust technology and then used as a media. So, for example, gold is not a media until people exchange it or communicate it or communicate in other ways through it. So, and usually we are there in the final stage where we use information and symbols to build collective truths. The media supporting this would withdraw, and it seems hard to notice. This connects deeply to our nowadays internet usage every day when we have to reflect on algorithms and platforms. And I believe by unpacking how this structural belief is built through media, we can approach a reconstructionism theory, which supports the rebuild of alternative and small-scale structures and consensus in a postmodern, post-truth age. So that's the general idea for the theoretical assumptions and frameworks. So, so it will be, since there's an interconnection between collective behavior and media that I assume, it would be reasonable to ask what have changed historically, because we have so many different trust technologies. That's why I wish to use money as an example and do a non-linear genealogy research. We won't focus on this part, but an interesting topic for today, also what I've been researching recently, is just how crypto functions as trust technology, right? First, I should give a notice that crypto, as well as Ethereum that I focused on, is not a widely adopted money. So there's a constant debate on whether it is decentralized, secure, or trustworthy enough, even within the community. So in my opinion, it is still in a relatively unstable stage and still developing. However, for a larger group, for a large group of people who think like Ethereum or crypto is trustworthy, I found there's like two ways they approach this cryptocurrency. And for my research, especially Ethereum, there are two ways they approach it as a trust technology. The first way is to emphasize Ethereum in providing a new trust me that enables direct verify on decentralized ledger that makes it accountable and true. So the principle is don't trust, verify. And the second way is actually adopt Ethereum as a new trust mechanism. So believing it in, it will form a prototype for future collective behavior on internet called Web3, right? So where Ethereum will function as an infrastructure for not only transactions, but also daily internet usage. So after the connection with my fieldwork and my theoretical framework, I wish to make like an aggressive argument. So before these two trends find a way to merge together, they actually are creating two opposite strands affecting how we would do with this, which are cultivate and real. So I mean, we're familiar with the detached exchange value marks. Rarely there's a higher about exchange can be treated as money. I draw this idea from an economist called Perry Merlin, who said that there's these things are ranked according to their trustworthiness. And to me, this rank shows different roles of money and transact money, like preserve, pay, and invest. And the important thing is like the more trustworthy money is, the further it gets detached from use value. And the closer it gets reattached to use value, the more uncertain it would be, because use value itself is uncertain. So that's why when we focused on the trust me of Ethereum, we inherently heading towards a detachment direction, where the security and value preserving ability is emphasized. And when we focus on the trust mechanism enabled by Ethereum, we head for the reattachment direction, where mass adoption and real-world usage is emphasized, even with the cost of trustworthiness. So ideally, people would want Ethereum to do both, so digital metalism and infrastructure mutualism at the same time. But in real world, people have to pick a side. Like Ethereum, in my opinion, picked the reattachment side and bearing all the complaint about its being centralized and it's insecure in their protocol design. So, I mean, it's still not clear for me where the future of crypto within this value system would be. I wish to make some speculations by the end, but before I went there, I want to start it by addressing some flaws in the value system of capitalism first. To start with, only limited use value is commodified in capitalism and left others at the bottom of this hierarchy. So which usually involves local values, unpaid domestic housework, or things we considered as subcultural value. We can actually push this argument to the far end, where you have writers like David Graeber, who have mentioned that in his early work, how value is fundamentally a constant struggle between individual and totality over the token of value. And capitalism failed to provide tokens for a value democracy, which would mean that people would have free to conceive value in whatever form they wish. But besides that, if we look into this seemingly coherent value system, it is actually not a coherent one. And it's built on the global unequal value exchange between different economic systems that famously described by anthropologist Jane Geyer called conversion. So plus, even within one domestic or local value system, you will have many other problems like unequal financial service and so on. So whether and how crypto would change this, I would say crypto is providing a space for what I call value negotiation, what means attempts to reshape this system. And I would say value negotiation tradition be done through making ownership or etc. Follow through its unique features and connectivity. It enables us to imagine negotiation in scale and lower time. So that's actually awesome. We can then do a thought experiment with value system using detachment and real attachment as two possibilities, which I think would leave us with 4 scenarios. The first one is that value system of crypto overlapped with capitalism, providing yet another tool for capitalists to do speculations and gain profit. A good example would be Trump mentioned America will become the Bitcoin superpower. And the second one is the polycentric value system, which is a top-down system that people invest in crypto in the early days would have enough money now to fund public goods without asking for profits and returns. So they managed to do a modern Robin Hood task in redistributing value from capitalism. So like Ethereum Foundation and GCC are good examples in redistributing this value. But the question also would be like how it will last in a non-capitalism way, and also what's the public goods they are providing, right? The third one is local values. There's when crypto is used to reattachment on alternative values. There's really a lot of examples you can see here. Just name a few that I encountered recently. There's VoiceStack, which tokenizes the value of investigation report. And there's GameForest, which tokenizes the value of forest data and protections. Also, Nantang Dao would be a great example with their local currencies. A lot of these projects are about Global South, but however, these local value tokens, similarly to more and like there's many local currency attempts before, they face the constant danger from capital gobbling and competition, right? And all of these 3 scenarios is part of something that happens right now, and they are having potential crises with their own logic. But since we are now having, they are now happening together and creates a chaotic interrelation, especially with all kinds of cryptos, it actually leads me to bring the 4th scenario as a possible utopia, which is a dynamic value democracy system, where personal value can be fitted into local and translocal communities, and the communities will form loose coalitions of value and fight against global capitalism. Although this seemingly infinitely far away, I think it's probably the only way we're left, and we should seriously talk about this. So, thank you. That's all of my presentation.
Thank you, Zhang Xihai. Anybody has any questions? We have 5 minutes for the questions. Yeah. Okay.
So first of all, thanks for this very inspiring talk. Now I have yet to digest what you exactly mean by all these so-called this trust as a trust me or trust mechanism. But I think in crypto community, generally people think the underlying or at the core is the trust in the core math, right? So the core math underlying this cryptography. Yeah. So when you think about this media, in your case, when you say money is the media or other things are media, how do you, I just want to hear more of your interpretation of how this underlying math working as a media, as you know, the trust that you're describing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like a preview view on trust in crypto community would be like it's something that trust is something that can be solved by cryptography and mathematics. But if how blockchain will actually game theory of it, still relies on like miners' motive to black support for a blockchain network. So it's not something just solved by technology. It always involves the human part, because if we want to trust something, it means we want to make sure of it. And because the nature and the human society is complex, and when you want to make sure of everything, the cost is infinite. That's why there's always a simplified part in trust. That's why I bring this concept up.
Of course we can take offline, but I think that when you're saying that is on a consensus level, but that depends on very different consensus, because the Bitcoin consensus by nature it's no finality on the work of proof, and then you're saying that in theory we can have this problem, but there are other consensus protocols that we have much more determinism as well as all the variants. But I think you know it's interesting to think about this direction when you think about the history of using money as an example to explain the trust. I think when you see crypto as, I forgot the name you use, crypto as
trust technology or
you know, I forgot about the later can check. Yeah, when you use that, I think it's quite interesting. I need to digest more about. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm also very new to this field. There's still like 2 years to go until I finish my dissertation. So, I mean, a really important and interesting direction for me would be like there's other blockchains other than Ethereum, right? So there's an ecosystem of many cryptos that have different mechanisms and different levels of trustworthiness, and it's just to me fascinating to see how they adopt different roles in this community. Yeah.
I have a question about you're talking about the trust.
Yeah.
So trust for the blockchain is more the value of a community.
Yeah, that's what I mean by the first theoretical framework that I started by emphasizing that trust has really different meaning in our real-day life. It can be a relation, it can be a decision, it can be an emotion, it can be a system or anything else. So it's really hard to pinpoint what you are saying with this term. So for me, trust is a really abstract of this process of how symbolic structure symbolize signs. But I later provide the other two terms that might be more helpful for our discussion, which is trust me and trust mechanism. So if we say we trust a blockchain, we have to pinpoint it's a trust me side or the trust mechanism side, which means if we are talking about why it is trustworthy or how we can do with this trustworthiness. Yeah, for me that's the important
I think it's a good topic, but maybe we can talk about later.
Yeah, sure.
You know, there was a motto in blockchain: don't trust, just verify.
Yeah, just verify.
Okay, that's all.
Thanks so much. Yeah, brilliant, theoretically rich presentation. I suppose just since this is about the Asian Ethereum community, or you mentioned the GCC as well. I'm just wondering, how is trust when people speak about this in Chinese? What word are they using rather than trust, right? Or are there multiple words? Like that come into play, because language is really, really important here, right? So yeah, that's just here we've been using the English term trust, and I just wonder when that actually flows out into culture, are we getting the same concept or different concepts with different associations being used to talk about these issues?
Yeah, so there's actually a book coming out in 2024 by a professor from Nanking University about how Chinese people talk about trust. Yeah. But in that book, actually, he only mentioned the interpersonal trust. So again, trust is a really broadly defined term. Yeah. You really have to make sure what trust you are talking about. And also in my field work, I probably adopted in a different anthropologist who focused really on what people says daily and all those small things. But in my fieldwork, people use trust in different directions. It's just a really messy. Also, you can see our discussion before here. We still have all this disagreement on trust. So at the point I really try to change to another concept, but still at this stage right now, I will stick to trust. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Zhang Zikai, and all the questions you guys raised. Let's move to our next speech. Okay. Let's move to our next speech. The next speech will be delivered by Muhammad Ilyas from CMU, and the speech topic is empowering sustainability and clean energy transition through P2P energy, energy trading, and blockchain innovations. Welcome.
Thank you. I am Muhammad Ilyas from a PhD in National College of Digital, and session is old. Date it is 7 March 2024, but this is not the real one that I was about to present today. But actually, my Mac stopped working today, and I edited that last day. Yeah. So anyhow. Maybe there are no much updated pictures or figures, but I will try my best to explain. Yeah, looking into this photo, there might be something that is coming to every person's mind, which is flooding in you see Missouri River, and the health problems, and also like the habitat ecosystem, destroying the habitat of animals. So why are these things happening? Who is responsible, and how can we tackle these kinds of situations? Yeah. So the first thing is we are facing the global warming, and which is because of carbon emissions and emissions from different kinds of gases, which different kind of gases that trap heat, and that affects our ecosystem. Emissions come from different gases are responsible, like methane, nitrous oxide, carbon, ozone, and there are other gases, and which affects our environment temperature. As we see in this figure, in the middle figure, that the temperature of our ecosystem is rising continuously, and there are different factors, natural factors, and there are some human factors that are involved in increasing or affecting this temperature. So if we see from like 1950s or onward, the temperatures have considerable change, and mostly human factors are involved for this. If we see the pie chart, so we can see that there are some sectors like electricity, energy sectors is mainly involved, like we are generating our electricity from fossil fuels, gases, like these kinds of things. And similarly, like this chart is like how much of the different kinds of gases we are producing, like from fossil fuels, from deforestations, and these figures just show like how what are the impacts, like we will face diseases spread, like if we have a global temperature rise, so mosquitoes maybe go from one place to another place, and this due to this migration, different kinds of diseases will transfer from one place to another place. Also, if our temperature is rises at sea level, so maybe hurricanes, and similarly the probability of intensity drops, etc. Similarly, it also has some impacts on our economy, like it is destroying our all infrastructures, and according to the National Snow and Ice Data Center, if all the glacier melts at the same time, so the water level will go up about 230 feet from the level that is now. So it's really like a this chart, this slide just show how much of the emissions are produced by each sector. So this figure is not really updated one, but you can see the energy sector is responsible for about 34%. And here transport sector and industry sector, these are the main sources of greenhouse gases emission. If we see here, so nowadays China is the largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, which is about 30% of the total greenhouse gases emission throughout the world. Similarly, USA is about 14%, and India is about 7% of the global house gases emission. These figures also show how much of the energy they are producing from different kind of sources. So that figure is for China, which is like producing most of their energy from thermal power sources. But anyhow, they have a good plan in the future. Every country have set up their goals for like 2030 or 2050 to achieve net zero or carbon neutrality. Similarly, this figure show how much of the energy US is producing from different sources. So they increase their this is good news that they have increased dependence upon the fast energy. And Europeans are mostly their energy gas, and now switching toward the energy resources. Yeah, so all these are some of the problems, and we have the solution, that is to a transition toward renewable energy resources to get rid of this. Yeah. This just like what impacts and what we are using now. So there's the centralized generation that electricity is generating at one side, and then that electricity is transmitted from that side to the consumer side, and it's actually a uniflow, like unidirectional flow. But nowadays, we also have the feed-in tariff system, like a building can install their own solar panels, or wind system, and then they can sell their electricity back to the grid. So this is the also today. But the future system with the advancement in blockchain technology or the innovative technologies, we think that the future power system will be a peer-to-peer energy trading system. That is like every person connected to the network has the ability to produce their own energy, and he can sell his own energy to in the neighborhood to the nearby person. And these have many benefits as well. Like we can nowadays we have like most of the energy losses from transmissions. So this way we can get rid of the transmission losses. We can also encourage energy resources, renewable energy resources. So this is the concept of peer-to-peer energy trading, where every buildings or every home or industrial, they can install their own solar power plants, and if they have extra energy, so they can sell nearby to another person, or they can sell back to the grid and get some money from that. Yeah. What is the reason why we are going to why we are talking about the transitioning of whole power system? Because everyone know that a huge infrastructure and like the economic investment are required for these transitions, but we are worried about the environmental situations. So what we can do now is we are going toward the net carbon footprint. So we are actually balancing the emissions and the carbon production and its offsetting. So what we can do quickly, like to address this issue, we can do there are industries that cannot completely depend upon the renewable energy resources for the time being. So what they can do, they can invest, they can do investment in some areas where they can install like renewable energy resources, or they can go for reforestation or something like that, and they can on registering that project, they can get some credits that are called carbon credits, and based upon that carbon credits, they can neutralize their emission level. Yeah. So this is basically the chart which which shows the basic concept. Like if someone have the renewable energy project, so it will be registered in the blockchain platform. It will be added there, and once that project is verified, so carbon credits will be tokens will be issued to that and will be available for sale and purchase. So so this is the simple concept that we already have some system that we can buy and sell carbon credits, but we don't know whether it's real, is a fake one, or is used or reused. So this is the concept they can that we can use for the renewable energy. If we have some power plants like solar power plants or wind power plants, so we can register it on a blockchain or any automated verification system, so we can get rid of broker. All the total process will be automated, and once this if any factory that need like to offset their carbon credits, their emissions, so they can buy these carbon credits, and it can be retired or can be resold as well. But the thing is, if it is resold, so it means like there might be some price volatility or something, so it's better to retire it at that time. So the simple concept is this, like even they cannot reduce their emission here, but they can invest in some projects like this, and then they can get some carbon credits, and they can help in neutralizing the carbon emissions. Yeah, this is also one of the concept that I presented in the ICP hackathon. So why like I am using ICP? Ethereum we can use also, but ICP is the one that has cheapest transaction cost and is truly decentralized, fully on chain. Also, it's easy to onboard many people. There is no tokens or wallets requirements, and also the build decentralized apps without oracles and scalable asynchronous computing environments as well. Yeah, so the other slides are just the introductory slide of our CMUBA, so I think it's enough for me. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 5 minutes for the questions, so if you want to ask, please raise your hand. Anyone questions? Okay.
Thanks. I'll just have a very quick question. So in tokenization of these energies, one of the major or the most challenging part is actually the hardware. I mean, actually how to use IoT to monitor the energy generation as well as the transfer. In your project, is it just right now a concept, or have you guys already produced something that actually is a proof of concept? And at what stage is this project?
Actually, this is just concept that I thought that we will implement on ICP from CMUBA. But
okay.
Actually, this is not my PhD. My PhD is on power system modeling. That is different one. But this is our idea that we will work upon. Because there are many projects that are already like have in a pilot stage. Like we have Power Ledger, we have other platforms that can do peer-to-peer energy trading. And it is really like limited, like 150 homes or like 300 homes, but they have no one have considered carbon emission tradings. So we think we can include peer-to-peer energy trading and as well as the carbon emission trading, carbon credit trading as well. So this is the way to encourage the renewable energy investment in the future, and we can like every country have some goals to achieve carbon neutrality or net zero emission by 2050 or 2065. So this is the way we can speed up the transition process.
Yeah, so in the Web3 space, there are actually quite a number of projects that are already developing quite well. So for example, Arcring or something like this project, you can take a look if you want. Okay, thanks. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't got it.
Okay. Did you get the question?
I thought he asked a question because I didn't hear.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I
Oh
didn't
no,
hear.
I'm just saying that there in the whole Web3 space, there are actually a bunch of projects in the same space, and they have already produced something quite viable. Like one project I want to mention is called Arcring, ARKREEN, Arcring. You can check online, and they have already produced their IoT device and have generated some revenue out of that. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you for suggestions.
Well, thanks. Anyone has any question? Okay, if there is no more question, then let's move to the next one. Thank you. Thank you, Muhammad. The next one is actually the last one. So the speech will be delivered by Zhao Huifeng from CMU. And the title is Mycelium Protocol, Sustainable Public Goods.
Yeah, it's my
Welcome.
honor to be the last one. Okay. Actually, I want to deliver many content and content to our audience, but you know, how to press this. Okay. Oh, how to go back? Yeah, the title is Mycelium Protocol, Sustainable Public Good. It's like a community development part too. Actually, we have a part 1 link coming from CMU, also ICDI International College of Digital Innovation, and also a CMU BA, the Blockchain Association. And it's an old link for part 1. I have some prefix for the Polyphonic Global South, yeah. And I see some speakers or other students to present like the retrospecting the history of the technology. I think maybe we can try to predict the future with history research. But I have 2 questions. The first one is where does the technology come, new technology come from? Where? Yeah, we see many technology, new and old. Maybe old change to new change to old. Yeah, and the second one, how do this technology affect the society? I think it's a broad question and not my topic, but it's a prefix related to our conference. So I have a simple answer. Maybe it's not an academic answer. It's like in one word, science. Yeah, of course. Like the tech, like electricity, nuclear, penicillin, metal, blah blah blah. I think it comes from the research of nature. Actually, mostly. Maybe it's not academic research, but I just make a simple investigation for that. So there also, if you want to make a deep view for the technology and the nature of the technology, you can find some books. I'm reading for that, yeah. But it's, for the first question. The second question is, I think, maybe it's like a complexity system, like a system to evolution, to to change the system one by one, small, maybe embedded into the big system. Yeah. So there will be not a certain or determined or equilibrium, yeah, sorry for that, status, but chaos at this equilibrium to diversity to emergence. Then maybe the new system with the new innovation will coming up. Yeah. It's also a book I'm reading, researching for that. It's like Complexity Economics, like by Brian Arthur. So it's a simple way, maybe from the nature to the science to the society. I think it's a simple word, but everyone knows, but I trust it. So there also be 2 roles I will follow. The first one is the motivation. I think motivation is the most important thing. Like if you coming from the north, yeah, maybe you can think some idea or imagination because you're not rooted in the source. And also, the visioning is more important than vision. Maybe some guy that will give you a picture of the future. Oh, it's a big future. But the future is dynamic and it's changing. So we can just visioning, yeah. It's some prefix for the Polyphonic Global South. So let's visioning for a pain of public goods, Mycelium Protocol. So the public good have 2 shortage or 2 pain. The first one is like it's overuse. You know, if the public good, everyone maybe need to pay anymore, just use and use, overuse. And the second one is the supply shortage. You know, it will cost many huge investment. A few guys to pay the money, even the governments. Yeah. So how to resolve this 2 problem? I think the first one is we need a circulation. So we follow the nature. It's like a mycelium protocol. You can see the picture. It's like a signature. It's like a total circle for the from the atmosphere to the plants to the root. And you know, the circle actually is by the root and the mycelium. These two creatures combine into one creature. It's named mycorrhizal. In Chinese, it's Jungen. You know, the root, the mycelium combine into one new creature. It's a new way to make the circulation. For simple as that. Yeah. So we can get a quick glance for the, you know, we know the new technology will build a new economic model. It must have a new economic model for the new technology. So what's the main feature for the technology or the model, economic model in the mycelium protocol? And the first one, integrals, we're talking about two creatures combined into one new creature. I said yours is mine. It's like that. So it's create is the first feature. And the second one is some like the old tree die, and some animals die, and something, yeah, you know, rotted in the forest, who break down the bodies, yeah, the mycelium. So the second one is a cycle. The nutrition coming from the old one break down into maybe nutrition, yeah. And the third one, the transfer. You know, there will be a big network in the underground, in the royal, yeah. It's a cycle building from the old tree, the small tree, and the soil, the atmosphere, the carbon, the nutrition is a circle. And who can allocate it is the protocol. You mean the mycelium, the spore, the mushroom, the root, the mycorrhizal, yeah. And the fourth is diversity. You know, there will be a conception about the mycelium or mushroom will be about, how about say that, 100,000, over 100,000 species, yeah. So if there will be so many kind of mushroom or mycelium, many cooperation with nature, with the surround the ecosystem, yeah. And there will be diversity. And the fourth is spores. Like we have a small picture you can show. Mushroom, if the mushroom be mature, will, I think, emit many spores in one time for millions in one time, in one night. Yeah. So spores is the important way for the protocol to expand to all the nature, like exponential. Yeah. And the sixth is mutual reciprocity. Yeah, it's like a benefit from each other. It's a kind of a new relation, you know. Yeah. So it's a sixth most important feature in the economics. Some simple mapping for that, like the nature system and the humanity. You know, humanity is like, yeah, community stuff, something else. And I try to mapping to the blockchain, yeah, but it's the other way. So it's some picture. The mushroom will emit spores, millions of spores in one time or one night. So you can find many mushroom after raining, yeah. And but if you be a spores, it's stupid. Why? Because most of it will be dies, you know. Millions spores, but we get few mushroom, yeah, maybe 10,000 is enough in one night. And the second is few nutrition they will keep. A few, yes, only grows in one night and die and emit spores. So if you have some like humanity, it's a stupid behavior. And third one is reputation. No one knows that. Underground, yeah. Who care? So, and if you work like a stupid spores to transport, to build, to transfer, allocate, blah blah something, that is stupid. Why? For it's like humanity. I think everyone think about that. Oh, how to? Okay. So we have a question: who can be the stupid sports to create public goods for the human, for the society. And think we have some way to be smart, still be too smart. The first one, blockchain. Yeah, smart contract. It has some mechanism no one can break. Yeah. And the second one is like some incentive mechanism, like a token. But token is not a single way to stimulate the ecosystem. And the third one is like we also have some idealism, like Professor Huang, yeah, and some speakers coming from around the world. And the fourth one is like if we focus on the diversity, millions of sports in one night, many guys dive into the building or trying or exploring the new ecosystem, maybe we can build some smart thing. And so we are building a sport plan on the progress. Okay, it's like we talk about the economic creates technology, blah blah, a blockchain, and complexity economics, and Fango networks. Yeah. And the simple logic is build a network cycle in small area, generate some revenue, and through the depths. We all know the depths. If we get a positive cycle, and the revenue, can distribute it to all the, the players. Yeah. Maybe we can get some smaller portion for the revenue and growth by accumulation. So some main factor for that is first one, nutrition. Like I just make a proof, at the top level of the revenue, yeah, like 10,000 for 1 month for sport. It's at the top level, not at the bottom. And second one, the reputation. Yeah, some like, medal, NFT, I don't know, it depends. A protocol. The important one, the protocol, depths. Everyone creates depths. Oh, I create something, DeFi to arbitrage, to trader, to get some money. It's just a movement from the old financial game to the blockchain. We can find some new things. Also, we need community and not the company, because company is following the capitalism value. So it's a simple diagram for that, like the traditional capitalism corporation, some simple like account, and some tools, and community members build some innovation idea to build new dApps, and through the Mycelium protocol to run some community business. No. Okay. So a simple roadmap. The phase one is community accelerator. Actually, we are releasing the first version. And the second one, phase two, is innovative dApps. In Delcon Hexon, we will deliver a craft version. It's like a game, yeah. Named Play to Be to Earn. It's not to play to earn. Play to earn means Ponzi game. But play to be to earn, maybe can try something new. And the phase three is Mycelium network, protocol network. It's a second end game, maybe, yeah. And some real progress for the engineering, the account, yeah. 65%, and the payment, and how to receive and buy, and the shop module, yeah, is on the testing, and some basic trading maybe in the game, yeah. And it's a simple architecture for the some system like CoSyn 72. It means community operation system. 72 is just黑神话悟空. Okay, some modules for that. Perks, points, shops, game, agents, and something else. It's free to all. It's open source. Everyone can clone and develop based on it. Yeah. And we join main hackathons and workshop global in the world. Yeah. Some reference. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you. It's time for questions. Anybody have questions? Questions. Okay.
Actually, I'm working a blockchain industry, and from the ideology level, I fully agree with you. But from practical angles, how can we shift people's mindset?
Can I be a little louder?
Okay, so I will repeat. So personally, I'm doing blockchain industry. I fully believe in you, from ideology level, but in a more practical level, how can we shift people's mind from zero-sum DeFi mindset to a more community-based set? What might be your answer? I'm curious about that.
Actually, smart means your valuation maybe be changed. Do some stupid things, you get happy, so you are smart. It's a simple way. But actually, Sam Altman do some experiment about a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. He spent about $15 million to build an experiment comparing two groups. One payment about every month $50, one $1,500 to give them some free time to new things like art, do some craft. I don't know. It's free, but the result is disappointed. Why? Because no work. They just lie down watching TV, play game. So it's failed. So what's smart? Smart. You must trust something what's the humanity. If you lie down, it's not a good way. It's even harm to yourself, so to your health, to your many things. So maybe keep on working on something. What you are putting your heart into. And get some basic UBI that works. Maybe it's a simple mode. So smart guy should choose some things and things. If you want a high big company, yeah, it's busy day. Some your free time to basic guarantee for life work. We can build about the economic guys. You really to smart guy.
I just want to go back to the start of your presentation and the metaphor of the mycelium, right? Which we can use a simpler word is just a kind of mushroom or a kind of fungus, right? So I just found that really, really curious. When you said it and the stuff that followed later when you're talking about nature, I mean, what it really reminded me of is Bruno Latour, the STS scholar, and he has a book called We Have Never Been Modern, right? And he talks about how, the idea of modernity is about kind of it's this kind of oscillation between science and nature, right? That's constantly oscillating. So, I'm when you talk about your vision of the future, I'm enchanted about this world where we can all be stupid together in a very smart way, and it almost sounds like a return to nature. I don't know what the question is here, but what's curious is, in order for us to return to nature, we got to use all these decentralized technologies and blockchains and all this kind of wonderful stuff. So, you know, for me, I wonder if that is like me drawing that connection between Latour and what you're saying is accurate, or if you think I'm missing the point entirely. Yeah, I suppose what I'm asking you is, are we really going back to nature? And if so, can you please take me with you on this journey?
Yeah, it's complicated. I don't know how to answer your question, but there will be many tricky things. Yeah, actually, like return to nature. Maybe part of them return to nature, but it's not a utopia experiment. Actually, it's like I have talked about with Professor Huang, the hypercapital. It's like revolution have two ways. Yeah. The first one, I can eliminate, erase you from the earth. Yeah. Yeah. The question is disappear. So revolution is my So the second way, maybe you can follow the world by innovation. You know, it's can have an effective way because generation by generation have meant for life. Maybe life for is suitable, maybe not. What they want to do, it's on the evolution of the life. So we can just I think about that. Yeah. No detail.
I think okay, I think we can order one last questions if you guys question. IA.
Writing books. Actually, I'm not totally tech guys. I just wonder. Like these 2 days, I heard about like community, diversity, loneliness, kind of your disease. I mean, especially diversity. We see a lot of color, race, but mostly it's centralized. So we'll go to the journal about 10 more different diversity is just like a myth, just like a community or something like that. So we should persuade more and more people don't like us. Otherwise, we just we believe each other. So we are gathering the people like us. There's no diversity, actually, right? So we should open our, I don't know how to say, or mind, or just persuade the world. I just, it's not a question. I just hope you can do that.
Yeah, agree. Diversity is important, like complexity system. If the world or the system in the single way, like some sense, step by step. If in the single way, in seconds, and also for system, some like wars in Africa, a million of people died because some were on the way to raise you because no gene for the wars. So like a way, it's a system level. You can evolution. Someone can get from the world. It's like try and try and sex.
Okay, thank you, Ali. Thank you, every audiences, all the past and all the graduate students today. Now, panel 2 over tomorrow here at 9 o'clock to 5:30 p.m. We will have the panel 3 and panel 4 of this conference. So hope to see you again tomorrow. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. Good night.